On the evening of Monday, the 22nd of May, the UK suffered its worst terrorist attack in 12 years, when a bomb was detonated at Manchester Arena at the end of a pop concert, leaving 22 dead and over 100 injured, many of whom were women, teenagers and children. And we, like almost everybody else, have been shocked and stunned, appalled by the pictures and the events of that night, but also so massively encouraged by the number of acts of kindness, heroism, and the sheer skill, expertise and dedication of all the emergency services. Our prayers and thoughts are with the victims and their friends and family, and everybody affected by this truly dreadful event. So before we go any further, we'd just like to take a moment's silence in respect of those who were injured and lost their lives. The Meeples and Miniatures podcast is sponsored by Two Fat Lardies and Geek Nation Tours, and also by the generous donations of you, the listener. Thank you to everyone for your continued support. We really appreciate it. The Meeples and Miniatures podcast, episode 211. Test of Honour review. With hosts Neil Shuck, Mike Hobbs and Mike Whitaker, and guest Rich Jones. Greetings and welcome to another episode of the Meeples and Miniatures podcast. And on this show, I am joined once again by the Welsh wizard himself, Mr. Hobbs. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Neil. Good evening, Meeps. How are my little Meeps? Are we well?
You're persevering. You're persevering with that, then.
It's catching on. It's getting there.
Right. Okay. So, before we go any further, I suppose we have to say hello, Jeff. Hello, Steve. And then we have to say hello to our other podcast host for this evening. Not that we've forgotten him at all. Although I suspect he's been off in the corner watching England thrash South Africa. Yes.
Most certainly have.
It is Mr. Mike Whitaker. Hello, sir. How's the cake?
I haven't got any. We've just re-entered the land of Test Match Special. Well, it's something we should do something about.
Well, it has to be said, it was most disappointing at the weekend, was it not?
There was no cake.
There was no cake.
The cake was a lie.
Despite the fact that we ran into, in person, the bringer of cake himself, Mr. Murphy Douglas, and
he was there. There were books, but there was not cake.
There was books, but there was not cake.
Oh dear. Which
leaves me with one question. Mervyn, how's the tiger doing? Moving quickly on. So
before I burst into tears.
Indeed, yes. Welcome both. Welcome one and all. We are Luffless this evening, as Mr. Luff has reported in sick. So once again, we do not have our great guru with us. Oh well, never mind. It means we can talk about buying stuff.
Yay.
Right, cool. And on this evening's show, for our main part of the show, we are going to be joined by Mr. Rich Jones, one of our previous hosts, and pops on from time to time to talk about stuff. And we are going to be doing an in-depth, and by in-depth we do mean in-depth review of Test of Honour.
How's the editing on that going, Neil?
Well, you'll find out in a minute. I think the answer to that is it's a big job. It did go on for a while when we recorded it. Yes, funny enough, I did actually notice that, I think it was today actually, Warlord posted a report from the Test of Honour weekend from the one and the only Kieran Byrne, who you heard from on last podcast. Anyway, Kieran was the guy who very graciously let me win the longest game of Test of Honour in history. And he's just done a write-up of the bootcamp weekend, and that's appeared on the Warlord website. So hello, Kieran, and hello the guys at the Combined Operations podcast, as opposed to the Combined Arms podcast, which is what I said when I interviewed him. So yes, Combined Operations podcast, and must get that right. So, I think we've been busy this week, haven't we?
Oh, a little.
Yeah. It's been a busy week.
Okay then, well, in that case then, what we'll do, we'll take a quick break and we'll get on with it, and we'll come back and chat about everything we've been up to, because, yeah, lots.
I don't like it, Sergeant. Me neither, sir. Good Lord, it's really looking pretty bad. Yes, sir. It happens every time, sir. It's too predictable, sir. How far do you think we've advanced, Sergeant? 6 inches, sir. It's always 6 inches. We advance 6 inches, then Jerry gets a go. The lads are calling it Hi-Go, You-Go, sir. Hi-Go, You-Go? Good grief. And they don't like it, sir. Oh, not like it? Seems pretty straightforward to me, rather like cricket. We have an innings, then the other chap does. Well, that's all very well, sir, cricket, sir, but begging your pardon, it ain't like that, sir, in war. I don't think Mr. Hitler plays like that. What, Hitler? No, gosh, he'd like to go all the time. Oh, Lord, sir, lummy. Whew. Well, sir, anyway, sir, it's like this, sir. If it carries on like this, Hi-Go, You-Go, me and the lads won't be coming to your Thursday evening games club, and that's the way it is, sir. Looking for more of a challenge with your World War II games? Are you tired of the predictability of Hi-Go, You-Go systems? by&nbsp provides real command challenges on an unpredictable battlefield. Two fat lardies, playing the period and not the rules since 2002. Pip pip.
What have we been playing? What have we been buying? We might even have painted something. The Meeples and Miniatures crew reveal all. And so, it's that time of the show where we find out what on earth we've been up to on for the past week. Let's start with Mr. Whitaker, shall we?
Oh, I thought you were going to do that. Because you know where I've been.
You know where you've been.
We know where you've been. Yep.
That's a very interesting comment.
Well, when you eventually turned up. But yeah, I've been to Partizan. We took the club's Open Combat Border Reavers game, which Cole from Second Thunder seemed very delighted with. And a good time was had by all. Finally managed to get the last few bits of Flot and Heather on the boards on Saturday night, I think, actually, which is actually fairly early by my standards. I have been known to be gluing things at 6 o'clock on a Sunday morning for a Sunday show before now. Everybody had fun, I think. There were some very, very nice games at the show, not least of which Tom Webster Deakin's World War One game, which seemed to coexist in 2 scales, which was rather impressive, and worked very well. I very briefly saw it played, in fact, by recent guest Harry Sidebottom's son as a 54mm, very quick sort of walk up and see if you can take the German machine gun nest game, which worked really, really well. Partly because Tom's a brilliant, I think MC is perhaps the best word, umpire for that kind of thing. He made it work really well. There were some very, very pretty games there. The usual suspects, James Morris, Simon Miller. Who else was there? Well, you were there as well.
Steve Jones's Bunker Hill game was really good.
The Harrogate guys had a Western Desert Chain of Command game next to us. The Wings of Glory and Sails of Glory folks were there as usual.
Yeah, I think the best game in the show was won by Ali Morrison's Cambrai World War One game.
The other World War One game.
The other World War One game, yes.
Clarkey had Dave and his Grand Armée stuff. General
D'Armée.
General D'Armée. I'll get there in the end. Game being shown off, which seemed to have a fairly dense crowd around the table every time I walked past. In all, it was Partizan. They have good tea. They have good sausage and bacon sarnies. It's a great show.
Interestingly, and we will hit this subject now. It was interesting, especially considering our previous conversation regarding Salute, which some people took exception to. But I think, and some people, I post a set of pictures that I took during the day. Because I can do that now, because I actually went as myself as opposed to taking pictures from miniature war games. And kind of posted the report and said, we were talking a couple of weeks ago about Salute and the impression of the lack of, big wow factor games. And hopefully, having seen some of the games that are on at Partizan, you may well get the impression of what we're talking about. Yeah, I don't think it's a knock at Salute as such, but it was really interesting to see the difference between Salute and Partizan. I mean, Partizan has always been known as a show that people put on really pretty games, really good looking games. That's always been one of its big selling points. But I just thought it was very noticeable this year, the difference.
I can't really comment given I wasn't at Salute, but certainly there were a lot of. I think one of the things that is, as well as being a lot of pretty games, there were a lot of involving games, and it is possible to do both.
Do you think that it might be because Partizan is slightly smaller, so the quality sort of stands out a bit more, whereas with Salute it might get diluted a bit?
Lost. Entirely possible. I mean, the fact is, basically, Partizan, you're looking at what? It's basically 50, around about 50 traders, around about 50 games. Which is, I suppose, from that side of things, about half the size of Salute in both traders and games.
Yeah.
So, yeah, point taken.
But then again, maybe it's just a case of that Salute is more geared to having the games that are put on by companies to promote their games.
Yeah.
Whereas Partizan seems to be more hobby club orientated games. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah, most possibly, yeah.
Also, bear in mind that Salute is oversubscribed for games. They curate what games go there. And I'm not sure what that says about the standard of the curation, but it's certainly interesting.
I think they have different priorities. I mean, certainly the one thing that was very noticeable at Partizan was that I would suggest upwards of 80, even 90% of the games on display at Partizan were historical.
I don't see that being a difference. A game's a game. Doesn't matter if it's fantasy, sci-fi, or historical. You can have a pretty game of either of those, or you can have a rubbish-looking game of either of those.
Very true.
Very true. There's also the observation that scenery for fantasy sci-fi games can be a little problematic in terms of making it look good. I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but I find it a lot easier to create historical scenery that looks plausible because, frankly, I live in this world and I know what it looks like.
Well, Star Trek managed to, do it back in the 60s.
Star Trek and Doctor Who did it both the same way by going, "Ooh, there's a local quarry, that'll do."
For a war game, you just need a rocky area.
The only difference is the colour of the stone.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I don't know quite where I'm going with that, but I know that I've thought about, when I've been thinking about things like Chain of Command in, Far Future Chain of Command or Quadrant 13, the thing that I always come up against is, what do I make the scenery look like?
Yeah, you actually make quite a good point there when you think about it, because historical games, we have a context, because we live on this planet. Yeah. But if you try to do something on another planet for a sci-fi game,
and I think that's why Matt Slade's Martian game works, because we do actually have a reasonable grasp of what Mars looks like.
Yeah, it's red, and it's got a cricket ground. Yeah,
apparently so. Yes, but you see my point.
Yeah,
that works because he's got the. Don't want to use the word, but he's got the conceit of it being on Mars. And we've got enough imagery of Mars to get a pretty good idea that if you produce a red dust bowl of some sort and add scenery to it, it will look like an alien planet, and it will look like an alien planet that will cause people to go, yup.
Yeah.
It's a lot harder if you're in there's a fine, I mean, sometimes you can just work by just being flat out outrageous, and I've seen 40k boards that have just worked with that, but it's difficult because you have such a wide array. I mean, it's like sci-fi wargaming in general. You can go all the way from the Quadrant 13, I am pretty much take Modern Warfare and extrapolate X hundred years into the future, to, at the other end, 40k or Warpath, where you are throwing in things that just don't, alien races and that kind of thing. And there's a whole continuum between the two. And the further you get down the continuum, the more I think you have to work on making what you put on the table look believable.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good...
Well, I may be talking complete wombats.
No, you actually, when you think about it, because a lot of people, when they do sci-fi, the sort of easy one to go for is the colony.
Yes.
So...
Absolutely.
You
still have to decide what your planet looks like.
Yeah, so you just sort of describe what colour is the ground going to be. Right, now I'm going to chuck a bunch of futuristic sort of shanty towns down, because that's what colonies seem to look like.
Because at the end of the day, we all know that all colonies end up looking like Hadley's Hope.
Yeah.
Yes. I wonder where that comes from.
Yeah. To actually sort of design a whole background for a science fiction game. Okay, 40k have done it, and they produce scenery for it, but that really is just sci-fi gothic.
Yeah, I mean, I've been thinking about this for Quadrant 13, and the immediate thing, as I was starting to write, sort of just even produce sketches for scenarios, is you think, what kind of world is this? What difference does it make to the battle? Is this a vacuum world? Is it a rocky world? Is it a jungle world? Is it, 100 degrees C, Neo-Venus with corrosive atmosphere? And
No, come on, Mike. We all know that whatever alien world you go to, it looks something like Canada.
I thought that was every cop show, actually. Looks like Vancouver.
Yeah.
Or the quarry. Yes, I mean,
yes, this is true.
Right. Or you try and tie it to some sort of trope like a comic book.
Yes. Yeah.
But it's a tricky problem, and I would love to see, which is why I said one of the reasons why, given I was actually the judge for it, why Matt's Little Martian game won the award at Hereward, is that I like the way he'd produced a cohesive and plausible whole in a non-historical setting, and I think it's quite hard to do. But we digress a little because I hadn't actually finished.
Well, yeah. You just hit my line because it was like, yes, it was the phrase. Getting back to what we were talking about, Mike.
Back to Partizan.
I spent a little money on the shiny.
Okay, what'd you get? Come on.
I bought the War Bases Mancio in 28mm, which is one of their new Roman NDF building ranges. And oh dear God, that's gorgeous.
Oh, that's the big one.
That's just the little sort of Roman townhouse thing with the balcony.
No, that is nice.
I have the Najevitz villa. I don't need another villa.
Okay.
Yet. I bought their wildlife collection, which has things like pheasants and foxes and wolves and stuff, just for scenic scatter on the Duxbury table.
Mm.
And I picked up their Compass Rose pointer, which is about 4 or 5 inches in diameter, made of laser cut perspex or whatever it is, laser cut clear plastic, and has compass rays intended for our Sales of Glory campaign because it's just a little bit nicer than the one that comes in the box, which was nice.
Cool.
I gazed lustfully at many things and resisted temptation, but the new Kirtley's Thurian figures, I could have had a very expensive accident with those because they're at least as nice as the Saxon miniatures ones.
Ooh, that's not good news.
The fellas from Tree Fellas, who seem to have basically set themselves up as a alternative to Andy from Last Valley, had some lovely stuff. The thing they do that Andy doesn't is they also do stuff in 15mm.
Mm.
And they had some really rather nice 15mm strips of vineyard, strips of vine.
I must admit, I was taking photos of those, going, "Oh, they're really interesting. I like the way they've done that. That's really clever."
I really like the way they've done those, and they look so much better than the moulded resin Battlefront ones that I'm very, very, very tempted to drop them an order for a dozen or so, for continuing the Italian I Ain't Been Shotgun campaign. So yeah, that was Partizan. It was cheaper than it might have been. had it been a week later, I might have been trying very hard to explain to Anne when she picked me up from James's cricket match quite how much more I'd come home with than I left with.
Ah, okay, fair enough.
Other than that, club night on Monday. I sat around and catalogued my Sales of Glory collection while watching people try not to sail into islands with a little Sales of Glory game with the USS Constitution trying to make its way out of Chesapeake Bay past the British blockade, which was kind of fun, actually. She succeeded. What else? Oh, and I got a little bit of a look at the Operation Sea Lion book from Warlord, which Ruben had just acquired, which is rather pretty. We are plotting our game for Salute next year already, which more of later. Andy, the two Andys, are plotting their game for a few shows next year already, which appears to involve more 54mm figures and some variants on the Men Who Will Be King, which I still need to get them to talk to us about, don't I?
Indeed.
Yes, I'll try and arrange that for sometime fairly soon. The interview that we've just recorded, but you aren't about to hear, has pricked my conscience about the fact that I need to get off my arse and finish the Dux Britanniarum compendium, particularly since I now have some more nice buildings. And I'm prepping for the next I Ain't Been Shotgun campaign game at the club, and my buildings still haven't arrived, so I may be prepping for a while at this rate. Well, I think that's about me, unless I've missed anything. Oh, and one of my customers got his half-tracks. Indeed,
I did, which I still need to pay you for.
Which I think means you next, mate.
Okay. Yes. So, what have I done this week? Funnily enough, as you know, I went to Partizan, got a couple of half-tracks, amongst other things, which I still need to clean up prior to painting. Mike printed me off a couple of very nice STK F9s. So, got to finish those off because they're meant to be appearing at Market Lardon in a couple of weeks' time. not very long. And since I still haven't finished my Tigers yet either. Yes, work cut out. However.
People kept waylaying me at Partizan with questions about 3D printing. It was quite amusing.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I talked to the guys who have the who always have the 1/200th scale moderns that are 3D printed.
Yes, guys from Derby, yeah.
The guys from Derby. So we had now I actually have something to show, which I've not had at the time. We had a long natter, and they decided that they actually really like my printer.
Cool. So, yes, got that. What else did I get at Partizan? I took a load of photos, as people may have seen. Chatted to loads of people, which was really nice. Hi to Zach. Hello, Colin, Mervyn, Sam, and loads of other people. Yes, so lovely to chat to everybody at Partizan. Thank you to everybody who took the time out and spotted me. I actually got to play a game at Partizan, which was quite interesting. Something I haven't done for a long, long time. And funnily enough,
hours.
Yeah, I ran out of time.
Hobbs.
However, funnily enough, the game I did play was from the South Scottish gamers. I've got to be careful because I think
South East Scotland gamers. I think.
Yes,
they were the guys we were teasing gently because we felt they really ought to be the ones running the Border Reivers game.
Well, yes. In fact, what they were doing, they were running a Boshin war game using a variant of the Men Who Would Be King. So I've actually played it. So I feel a bit more informed now when we finally get to talk about that particular set of rules, because I have played a variation of it, so I know at least some of the rudimentary concepts. Managed to play a game of that. Bought a couple of small things. Bought a couple of pieces of curved railway track. 15mm railway track from Ironclad Miniatures, because we've been building railway track and painting the railway track for our upcoming Lardy game, and I suddenly realised we could probably do with a couple of curved bits, and I'd only got straight bits. So, but luckily I knew that Ironclad were going to Partizan, so I bought a couple of curved bits of that. And the other thing I got was the oh crikey. What's it called? There's a company that does all those kind of in-depth painting books. Oh, crikey, I should have looked at it. What's it called? It's not painting.
Oh, is that your samurai one?
Yeah. I can't remember what it's called. It's completely gone. Yes. But painting studio. Is it painting studio?
I don't know.
Something like that. Anyway.
Samurai.
Yeah, anyway, basically, I bought a magazine on how to paint samurai. I'd almost bought online, but I decided that I wanted to have a look at it before I bought it, just to kind of see if it was painting for mortals or not, basically. And actually, yes, it is, and it's got some really nice ideas in it and a lot of stuff. So I kind of went, you know what? Yeah, that's worth 15 quid. So so I got that. But that was about my haul from Partizan. Really, really good show, as I think we've already intimated. Took a while to get in, because they had a slight issue just simply with getting that amount of people through the door. They had a reduced number of people on staff, which kind of meant basically it took about an hour for some people to get. Well, correction, it took about 20 minutes for you to get into the show. But it's good to see, because it meant it was a really busy show. Yeah, they reckon there was around about 1,000 people went, but it was good. It was a really good day. So Did that. Spent another night modelling with Mr. Luff, starting to put our finishing touches on the stuff we were doing for Market Larden. I since have come away and I've finished, or pretty much finished, some gardens and flocked wall pieces and various other bits and pieces. So we are pretty much finished now with our painting our layout and creating our layout for Market Larden. I think Mr. Luff is finally somewhere near happy. So we did that, and I actually got to play a game this week. Well, another game this week, because I went to Battlefield Hobbies on Friday with Josh, my lad, and we played a game of Rune Wars, which we thoroughly enjoyed. More of in a couple of weeks. But yes, so busy. Did I buy anything else? Don't think so. Very tempted by. Well, yeah. There's a lot of Rune Wars stuff due to come out, which was nice. Very pleased to see that they're bringing out the Undead Cavalry as well as Human Crossbowmen. I kind of called that, and that was good to see. So looking forward to those. And I think that's about me. I think I'm about done. Mr. Hobbs, what have you been up to?
I didn't go to Partizan. I stayed at home.
Slacker.
Yeah. As much as I fancied the 5-hour drive there, I didn't really. So I managed to get a day's hobby on Saturday, which is great.
Mm-hmm.
So I finished painting up my trucks for Market Larden, so that's all done. I also finished off some Epic Elder Titan, which had been sat on my paint desk for about a month or two. So they're done. And I'm halfway through doing some 250s, which I had in my cupboard, which I've put together, and so they're halfway there.
What's that, 28mm 250, is it?
Yeah.
Okay, what company are those? Are those Rubicon again, or are they something else?
Yeah. No, they're the Rubicon Alte ones.
Oh, cool.
Because I'm sort of thinking, well, it's Normandy, and they had a lot of old stuff there. So I got the Alts. So yeah, they're on the way. I haven't played anything all week, although I am off to the Wargaming capital of Wales tomorrow to play Basic Impetus with Matt and Ralph and Mark and Steve. Oh, not Steve. Jeff's going. Hi, Jeff.
Hi, Jeff. So you're going to play what? Sorry.
Basic Impetus.
Basic Impetus. Okay, yeah, right,
Yes.
yeah.
So we're doing that.
Yeah.
Buy-in stuff. Well, a couple of things have turned up.
Mm-hmm.
My copy of General Dame.
Oh yes, I've forgotten about that. Yes.
Yeah, that's all right. Thank you, Mr. Clark, for sending it out so promptly.
Indeed, yeah.
Very nice man.
Mm. It's lovely. It's very nice, isn't it? Henry's done a bang-up job with producing that. It's really good.
Yeah. He has. And my copy of Open Combat Swordmasters has arrived, which I haven't had a chance to look through yet. That's
also very nice. I did actually get a review copy of that from Carl on Sunday. Thank you, Carl. That's cool. That is nice.
And then I bought some figures to have a look at them. Now this might interest Mr. Whitaker.
You bought some figures for review purposes only.
No, I bought them because I want them.
Okay.
So there's a company called Sibo's Little Dudes, which is based in Switzerland. And Sibo's Little Dudes have bought out the rights and the molds and the figures for Napoleon at War.
Oh, really?
And they have got those for sale again. So all the old ranges that were for sale are now back. But they've also started extending the ranges. So,
oh, hello, Austrians.
Yes.
Russians.
So I picked up 2 battalions of the early war British, or British early infantry.
Peninsular British.
Peninsular British, yes.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, now I'm going to use one of the battalions for my Hanoverians for my sort of 100 years, so my 100 days war stuff to go with my Waterloo.
Which you might as well, because they'll fit.
They'll fit in there nicely. But the other one, I wanted to have a look at the size, and I spoke to the guy, and he says that they're sculpted by a different sculptor, and they're a little bit bigger. So it can be really interesting to see what those are like.
Well, that shakeout is a bit taller, isn't it? Essentially.
Hang on a second, but you said they're a little bit bigger. I mean, they were already 18 mil.
Yeah.
So they're now basically 20 mil.
No.
Probably not far off it, actually.
No,
they do look rather nice.
Because these are going off to Gareth, and Gareth charges a different price for 20 mil. These are not 20 mil. These are 18 mil.
Gareth, if you're listening, these are not 20 mil. Even if you put a tape measure to them and they measure 20 mil, they're not 20 mil.
No, he's a heroic 18 mil. No, it'd be interesting. So they've been dispatched already. I picked up. I did pick up a battalion of the Russians as well, because there is part of me that thinks, well, I got the French. I could quite easily go into Russia with the French. So
early war French as well.
Yeah, so they've done the Bicorn.
Yeah,
French.
those are nice as well, aren't they?
Yeah. So once they arrive, Mike, I shall be putting up some pictures on my blog and
I
compare
think
them.
you should.
Yes. But he's a nice bloke. I've spoken to him. He's also interested in coming on the podcast.
Good, because we should get him on the podcast.
So that'll be interesting. I've seen a list of what he's going to be producing, and it's a big list. So
I should also note that he does some quite nice looking 28s as well in some very interesting periods.
Yes.
So
Bush Wars, modern Nigeria, Abyssinia. That'll interest the folks who go for some of the more obscure chain of command periods, actually. Italian Bergsaleri for Abyssinia in 28 mil.
Yeah.
Fun.
So considering it's Switzerland, what's his postage like?
So I bought 4 battalions. So it was 16 Swiss francs, which is about 12 quid for each battalion, I suppose.
Yeah, the battalions are 16 Swiss francs each.
Yeah. And the postage for all 4 was 15 Swiss francs, so about a 10 quid.
That's not bad.
It's not too bad, is it?
And it went out the next morning. He's been dispatched.
When you consider that the boxes in the UK were quite a bit more than that when they first came out.
So, yeah. So, I shall report when they arrive, but he's posted them out pretty much next morning.
Cool.
And he's been in touch to let me know. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to getting those. So, I've got an order to go off to Gareth straight away, so when they arrive, they'll be going straight over to Mr. Beamish for his brushwork.
Yeah, it's worth noting, for example, that a battalion pack of... Yeah, they're about 11 quid from 12 quid from Battlefield models, so they're about the same price. If you want a single battalion pack of what I assume is what they have left in stock.
Yeah. But I think he said that some of the suppliers have been back in touch with him to resupply, so we should be able to see them arriving in the UK.
It wouldn't surprise me if, is it Paul at Battlefield Models?
Yeah.
Who was one of the major stockists over here, gets them back in stock.
Yeah. And he's looking to do a version 2 of the rules and tidy the rules up a bit.
They weren't that bad, actually, but yes, I'm all for that. I'm definitely pro that.
Yeah, so
cool.
that was me really. I haven't really done anything else. I've been working on the scenario for Marky Larden for our games, so that's going well.
Yes, that's something we've got to start this week. Well, I mean, we've got a basic idea, but we actually need to sit down and actually, I've got to actually watch it all up.
Yeah. So. What we're going to do is we're going to not have the patrol phase. The jump-off points will be placed on the table before players start, and then each player will have a box, and in that box will be some figures and his scenario guide.
Oh, that's good. I like that.
Because I thought we're doing big chain of command, so there's 4 platoons on there. I'm trying to fit that, play that twice in one day. I needed a mechanic so that the game finishes at a time. So I have a mechanic to do that. The game will finish at a time, and if the players haven't achieved their objectives, they haven't won the game. But I will say no more.
I like that. Yeah, it has to be said we were kind of toying with that. Having fixed jump-off points as opposed to having to play the whole patrol phase.
Don't be nicking my idea, Shuck.
No,
it's been recorded. People know. If you turn up with that idea,
we're ahead of you both.
Yeah,
we were looking at the club. We were looking at doing Breckle Manor using chain of command, and I think we decided early on that the only way to stay, not to avoid straying too far from historicals, to actually fix the jump-off points in place as part of the scenario.
Yes.
Yeah.
Agreed. Cool. No, that's good stuff. Yes, because Market Larden is not that far away now, is it?
It is not.
Sorry, what was that?
That's Mike waiting because he hasn't finished his.
That's the sound of a that's the sound of a deadline whizzing closer. I do have the slight advantage that I'm intending to rerun one of the non-campaign scenarios I did for the club earlier in the year, so most of the prep work and handouts are already done.
It's otherwise known as cheating, but there we go.
Oh, all right then, if you insist.
Yes. Okay.
I even have the engineers section painted.
Ooh, cool. So are we done?
Yes, we've waffled on far too long.
We are.
Okay,
we've wittered on.
Okay, in that case then what we'll do, we'll take a quick break, and when we come back, we have a in-depth review of the Test of Honour, the new samurai rules from Warlord Games for you.
The nation is vast. There are battlefields of old, great convention halls, and worlds of fantasy to explore. Who will guide us across this great geek nation?
Since 2010, Geek Nation Tours have been providing holidays for groups of like-minded people. Whatever your nature of geek, tabletop gaming, TV, film, comic books, sports or science, Geek Nation Tours caters for you. Visit www.geeknationtours.com for more details and join the great Geek Nation. It's time to go into the rules. It's the Meeples and Miniatures in-depth review. We go deep. Really deep.
No, I mean really, really deep.
For this bit of the show, we are joined by long-term friend of the show, sometime presenter, and all-round gamer, surfer dude, etc. It's Mr. Rich Jones. Hello, mate.
Everybody's all right.
Better for hearing from you, mate.
Kind words, sir. Kind words.
Great to hear, mate. Welcome back to the show. And
It's a pleasure to be here, or back, or whatever the correct terminology would be.
It is good to have you on, mate. And for this particular show, we are actually picking your expertise brains. As what we're doing, we are reviewing the recent game released by Warlord, which is Test of Honour Samurai Miniatures game. And I thought, especially since, other than the fact that Rich has already played the game a lot, ran a game weekend, and has a set of published samurai rules, and knows more than a little bit about the subject, I thought he would be the ideal person to have on the show that we can discuss the rules with. So welcome, sir.
Thank you. You're welcome.
In fact,
You're welcome.
You've done that thing you do when you get your teeth into a game and really get your teeth into it, haven't you?
Yeah.
Because you do have a tendency to sort of suddenly wind up running game days and becoming a guru, and which I think bodes well for the game.
Yeah, possibly. I mean, samurai games have always been lurking around in the Jones household, really. So it was only a natural thing. But yeah, I do tend to have some sort of I don't know, gaming affliction sometimes.
You don't do games by halves.
No. Why should you?
Indeed. But as you say, especially with the fact that it's a samurai game, for people who are not aware, you wrote at least two different versions of Bushi no Yumi. Although that's probably pronounced completely wrong.
No, we'll let you off.
Oh, fine, okay. One which was a free giveaway with War Games Journal, which apparently is actually still sitting online somewhere.
It is. I mean, the issue is still sitting online somewhere, and you can get the rules. But I mean, when I was down at War Games Journal, we read a lot of rules from, I think it was Lord of the Rings, basically.
Yeah.
GW Lord of the Rings, mods, and that was one of them. But then obviously later I wrote one that sort of followed my rules from Flying Lead from Ganesha Games. So.
Right. Yeah. So here we are with so Test of Honour has been it was trailed for ages, and it finally arrived and pretty much immediately sold out. As you're listening, as we're recording this, they are still waiting to restock. But I would imagine by the time that you're listening to the show, because we're recording this in the middle of May, and we were up at Warlord at the weekend, and I think they're hoping to get stock of the game back in by the end of May. But I think suffice it to say, demand for the game has taken Warlord somewhat by surprise. But before we get into talking about our particular thoughts on the game, let's give you an overview of the whole thing. So, Rich, do you want to give a quick overview of the game, and then we'll get into what we need to play and what it all comes with and all that sort of thing?
Okay, it's a definite skirmish side set of rules. You get a set number of points, and for that you can probably get anywhere up to, I don't know, I think the most we've ever had on the table with the recommended points have been about 20 figures.
Yeah.
But that's using lots of little 3 groups. So you're looking between 8 and 15 normally, I think, figures. So it's a definite skirmish end of the spectrum. It's made to replicate the feeling of Chambara, the sort of the Japanese Western action. So it's not made to be ultra historically realistic skirmish. It's a definite heroes and baddies, big guys and cannon fodder in theory. Skirmish game, which is perfect, I think. And I suppose we'll go into the feel of it later, but that's what it's aimed at.
Yeah.
So how many figures aside?
Well, it depends how you put your war band together, how you put your band together, really. So if they recommend anything up to 24 points. Most games, we just play games at 24 points now, but most people start with about 15.
Right.
Well, it depends how you do it. If you can take a samurai and hero, and then up to 2 other samurai helpers, and they're worth anything, about 5 points each, 5 to 7 sometimes. So if you take all 3 of those, you probably used about 12 points. Then you can get commoners, as they call them. Non-heroes would be the better word, I think. You can either buy them singly and they cost 1 or 2 points, or you buy them as a group of 3 on a base of 3, and they cost normally around 2 points, 2 or 3 points. So if you took your samurai, as many as you could, you get probably 2, 5, 9, 13 points.
13 points.
And then you'd have another 7 or 8 points up to another sort of 10 points probably if you're going to play up to 24. So you could get two lots of 3s or 3 lots of 3s for about 6 points, and then have some single figures on the table as well.
So there's a large combination of the way you can spend your points then, isn't it?
Yeah, you have to have a hero.
Yeah.
And then after that, it's up to you. I mean, the way the game works, you're a bit mad if you don't take at least one of the samurai. If not, most people would take the two extra.
I'm just thinking of poor Neil having to have every single combination. That's all.
Oh well, I say that kind of works out. I mean, basically, what you're talking about is once you get into commoners, that's either, well, I mean, depending on what type of warband you've got, that's either Ashigaru, and they'll either be equipped with spears, bows or arquebus, although they insist on calling them musketmen, which I don't know about you, Rich. It annoys the pants off me, but there you go. It's like they're not muskets.
Yeah, but they're not commoners either, really, are they?
Well, no. This is it. And because they lump Ashigaru in with like bandits and all sorts. Yeah.
Yeah, most of the time they're not heroes either.
No, this is it. So there's it's common. So they lump Ashigaru in with bandits and peasants and all sorts, basically. So it's basically samurai and non-samurai.
Yeah, they would have been better saying that, I think. Although you could argue, I mean, you just don't get hung up on the terminology, that's all I think. Because, I mean, there's people arguing, Ashigaru were often samurai. Yeah, technically they were. Yeah. Before the Reformations, most people could claim to be samurai, so... Yeah, why? Don't worry about it. It's...
So the way it works is that you have recruitment cards, and so you recruit your forces by your forces are on a set of cards basically. So you have a card for your hero. There's 2 or 3 cards for other samurai. Was it wise samurai and something else, and then there's
a loyal samurai, a wise samurai.
That's it. And then there are other cards, recruitment cards for either individual commoners or groups of commoners. So you can either have individual spearmen, guys with bows, or guys with musketmen, as they deem them. Or you can have them in groups of 3. And alternatively, you can also have things like you can have sergeants and musicians, bannermen, and all these are on different recruitment cards, all pointed up. And basically, other than the samurai, all the commoner cards tend to be around 2 or 3 points. Are there any single? I don't think there are any single point cards, are there? I don't think I've come across it.
No, I think one of the not the Ronin, possibly soldiers? Possibly one of the Ronin poor guys is one. Because I was thinking you could take 23 of them, but then you'd die.
Yeah. So basically, the way you choose your force is essentially you sort it out all on cards, and then that's your force. Like, grab your models.
Okay, so we've got figures. How big a table do I need?
3x3. You can play smaller games on 2x2, but the main action takes place on the 3x3.
Yes. Oh, look, it's a warband game on a 3x3 table. Shocking indeed, horror.
Never seen one of those before, mate.
Gaming for mortals.
I think it's
gaming for the frugal.
Well, it's gaming for the people that just want to plonk it on the table rather than having to get the board out and clear stuff away and things.
Yeah, true.
Make loads and loads of terrain.
If you're doing a small skirmish game, I think it's a bit daft to have it on anything more than a 3x3.
Yeah.
I mean, all you got to, if you played a few games of Infinity on even that's on a 4x4 with huge amounts of scenery, then you soon think, oh god, it's taken me twice as long to put this out than it did to play it.
We'll get to the depths of the question later, but obvious question is, how much terrain do you need for it to work as a game? There are some skirmish games where you just can't play it on a bare table, for example, because you need the cover.
You wouldn't want to play it on a bare table, but most of the scenarios will work with the scenery you get in the box, which is 2D card printed.
Right.
And I think there's a couple of buildings and a wood. Yeah, I can't remember, Neil. Yeah, jump in here because I can't remember what's it.
Yeah, there's a couple of buildings. There's a wood. There's some walls and fences.
They're double-sided, aren't they? So it's a bit hard to remember.
Yeah, I mean, there's 3 buildings, and if you flip them over, they're ruined buildings, burnt-out buildings.
And the walls are a hedge on the other side, aren't they?
That's it. Yeah, so I mean, there's basically a couple of bits of area terrain and a couple of bits of linear terrain. Enough to kind of get you going. I mean, ideally, you'd want a couple of hills, some areas of woodland, which is nothing that you haven't got already. other than the fact that you might want to kind of theme it a little bit more in the Far East as opposed to having deciduous trees around everywhere, you know.
Well, what's going to come up, I reckon, at some point in the evening, is the terrain rules, and they aren't very. There aren't many, and they're not very complete. Many people would say, and you don't really need them because buildings, for a start, you can't go in at present. You can't. There's no actual rules as written for fighting in buildings. Yeah, they're locked and you can't get in them, as it says in the rule book.
Yes.
So they're just obstacles. And with most skirmish games, I mean, it is a melee-based skirmish game. Yeah, it's a bit like Saga. You don't need that much scenery because in the end you're standing toe to toe. I think.
I think a Saga level of scenery is a good description for it. Yeah.
So if the more scenery you put on there, the more you spend sort of running around after each other, and then in the end you end up spending. You end up toe to toe, and that's how the fighting goes. So the scenery is more obviously useful for the scenarios with objectives, I think. But you don't need it. You don't need heaps. I like putting quite a lot on. I just like it looking pretty, but.
Yeah.
If you were asking me what the bare minimum was, it's like 3 pieces.
So we got a table. We've got some forces. What happens now? Scenario?
There's different scenarios in the book, ranging from the old kill each other, the two heroes having to kill each other. The scenarios in the book follow a sort of a bit of a narrative campaign and introduce you to the game. So you start with very few things on the table. And you end up with 24 points on the table, and the games go up as you're progressing through them, and they're adding more rules and add more scenario rules. Once you play those 5, then it's very easy just to decide what sort of battle you want, and then the cards, it's something called the quest cards. So once you played the campaign in the book, you can mix in the quest cards with the fate cards. And that gives you, Musket and Tomahawk. You played Musket and Tomahawks?
Yeah.
You play it there?
No, but I've listened to Neil review it.
Right, okay. Well,
you played it a long time ago.
Like or like the old 7TV was. You had a major objective and you had a minor one. Well, the quest cards almost do that. So they give you a side quest so you can win. You can get victory points in another way than just killing the other person, just like getting objectives.
Yeah, I think again this is something that we'll come back to kind of say. Well, actually, that's one area. Scenarios is one area of the game that could do with some work. But okay, we'll come back to that.
Time to put toys on the table then.
Put them down, and then you run towards each other and smack each other up, just like any good samurai would. So.
I know this game. It's subtle.
It's a game for you now.
Oh yeah. Yeah, very much so. Yeah.
I'm doing a slight injustice there because there are objectives, and you can win. There's different ways of ending the game, but in the end, basically, you're going to go toe to toe. The most important thing on there is your samurai hero, and some of the scenarios finish when he's dead. So obviously that's a main target. That's the one you have to put down first, and then you take it in turns to place units, whether that's a single figure or a base of 3, until you've all finished.
Yeah, and depending on, the majority of scenarios, you can deploy anywhere between 6 inches to a foot into the board. So one of the ideas is that actually you get,
if you wanted to be, you're a foot away from each other, basically.
Yeah, so basically, it's a game that's designed to kind of get you into combat fairly quickly.
Yeah, you can be sneaky, you can run around it, and that's good fun. But depending on the objective, you can get into combat relatively quickly because you move in 6 inch on the whole. You've got a number of actions. The samurai have come out as either having 3 actions a turn or 2 actions.
Yeah, up to, yeah.
So if you take your 3 samurai, you get 7 actions. There we are. So I think there's a hidden Easter egg in there somewhere.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah.
Indeed, yes.
With the 7 samurai thing, because that's how many fake cards you get as well. So you get 7 samurai cards if you take the maximum number of samurai you can. So you're quite easily going to be able to move 6 inch and batter somebody as well. 12 inch. So it's starting 12 to 15 inches away from each other. You're going to be in combat fairly quick. Yeah. I think most of the games are about 6 turns as well. I think.
Yeah, I mean, some are not. Some are allegedly not timed. I mean, we had a classic case. The first scenario it's something like 11 or 12 points. It's basically a samurai, a couple of groups of commoners, and it's just a little introduction scenario, which, according to Graham Davey, the author, is meant to last 20 minutes. When I played in boot camp with Kieran, hello Kieran, on Saturday, we managed to be going for well over 3/4 of an hour.
I don't know how you did that. I've never played that scenario that's lasted more than about 8 minutes.
Well, put it this way, yeah, neither of us could hit the side of a barn door when we were stood next door to each other, you know.
Usual dice luck, then, Neil.
Definitely, most definitely. The one thing we're skirting around here is basically how the turn sequence works.
I've been trying to get you to tell me for the last 10 minutes.
That was the next thing. That was the next thing we were coming to.
Okay. Well, think of it as a cross between sharp practice and bolt action. Rich, off you go. So what do you do?
Okay, so each card or each unit, because you don't need the cards. There's nothing intrinsic you need there. If you've got, you may as well just have it on a roster. But anyway, so each unit, I'll call it, which is either one character or a group of 3, has so many action points to put into the hat, and they're chits. And there's commoner chits, and there's samurai chits, and then there's 3 fate tokens that go in as well. And they all go into the bag. Both sides go into the bag. You take it in turns. The first person pulls one out, and if they pull a commoner token out, then they have to activate a commoner unit. If you pull out a samurai token, you activate a samurai unit. Each unit has a different number of actions they can do a turn, which will be how many tokens got put in the bag. Your hero samurai has 3, the other samurai normally have 2, and then the commanders only get 1 action. And if I'm playing Neil, I take one out of the bag, activate whatever unit of my choice of that type, and then the bag passes to Neil. He pulls one out. That did not sound right. He takes one out of the bag, and then he activates the unit of that type. If you pull a fate token out, there's 3 in there altogether. The first 2 times that you pull one out, you take a fate card, which you can assign to your samurai.
These are basically like skill cards.
They're buffs, basically.
Yeah.
So they'll buff your samurai up in some way.
Back a sec, just to make sure I've got this right. The samurai and commoner tokens are not labelled with what faction you're in. They're just generic.
That's correct.
They're just generic. It relates to how many actions you've got. So my force, if I've got 4 lots of commoners and then the 3 samurai in my force, the 3 samurai will put in 3, 2, and 2 tokens, so they'll get the 7 tokens. And then the 4 commoner groups will give me another 4 tokens. They'll go in the bag. Neil will do the same, and then we pull the tokens out. So it's not like bolt. It's not like bolt action where you've got the different coloured dice in there.
But there's equally, therefore, no guarantee that you will get activations for all the tokens you put in.
No, because there's the 3 fate tokens in there. The first 2 times you get a card. The third one you pull out, it ends the turn, and everything goes back in the bag.
But you're all drawing from the same bag. There's only the one bag.
Yes.
So there's entirely a possibility that you may draw all samurai tokens, and Neil, with his usual luck, may not.
But if I draw all my tokens of one type, say the samurai out, before Neil's drawn all his out, the next time I draw a samurai token out, he gets it, and then the bag still passes to him.
Yeah. So basically what happens is that if you draw a token which you cannot use, you pass it to your opponent, they activate a unit, but you then effectively also lose your turn. Because your opponent activates a unit on your turn, and then he activates a unit on his turn as well. So there is a kind of a balancing that, if you pull out a whole load of tokens first and activate early in the turn, as long as the turn still goes, sooner or later it will turn around and your opponent starts activating all of his units. But obviously that means that you've already activated yours. But as you say, there's no guarantee that either of you will activate all your units because of these 3 fate tokens.
I mean, if you activate all your samurai first, which has happened on multiple occasions, then you run riot for those first few not turns, but first few phases of the turn for you. But then all of a sudden you're thinking, oh no, because they're basically sitting ducks from then on, and you're really hoping for those fate tokens to reset the turn. So it swings and roundabouts.
Yeah, let's add a new. Okay, so we'll add a nuance to this as well, in the fact of if you are attacked, you need to be able to activate to defend yourself, which means that you actually rummage around and pull a token out for an activation. If you still have an activation to make, so it basically means that if your unit has not activated yet and you get attacked, you have to use your activation to defend yourself.
It's called an evade.
Yeah.
So if you're attacked, if you can, you have to evade, and you evade by either having a token left, in which case you take a token out and put it on your card or next to your figure or whatever. So in effect, your evade, your saving roll, is using up one of your actions. Or, if you haven't got any tokens left, it's tough. Unless you've done a move called Move Cautiously, which lets you have that evade for free. But you have to evade. You can't, if you can, you have to. You can't choose. Which does get into, I mean, when we get into the gameplay a bit, it does bring up a few... archery isn't that... well, arrows aren't that good for killing people, unless you're lucky. You do get lucky hits. They basically act like an MG42 for the fact you can pin things down with them. Because if you make somebody evade, even if they're not going to take a casualty, if they're a commoner, it normally burns their turn, because they have to use that activation to evade, which means that they can't use any more tokens.
So the bag passes to me, and I pull out a token I can use. Say it's a samurai token.
Mm-hmm.
What exactly can I do with it?
You can move. There's 2 types of move. There's a normal move, which is 6 inch, and there's a cautious move, which is 3 inch. Mm-hmm. If you've got any sort of ranged weapon, you can move 3 inch and use your ranged weapon. You can charge, which is a special move action, which is got to be as close to a straight line as you can, and there's caveats on it. And with the charge action, you get to melee at the end of it. A normal move action, you can't move within 1 inch of an enemy figure, so you can't move into contact. You have to charge into contact.
You can stand up and move 3 inches if you've been knocked down, and you can reload.
Reloads are the black powder weapons. Archery, you can fire as each activation, as long as you only move 3. And that, if you've got cavalry on the table, the only difference for cavalry is their normal move is 9 inch. But if they want to charge, they only charge 6 inch. And if you've got a mounted archer, you can still only move 3 inch.
Yes.
This must be the first set of rules I've ever come across where cavalry charge less than their normal move.
Yeah, it has it has prompted quite a bit of debate.
The cavalry rules are interesting. I didn't actually realise on the mounted archers that you can only move 3 inches.
Yeah, I bet on that day there was not a lot of cavalry around.
I think I only spotted one one mounted samurai all day, but I was looking at the mounted archers because I happen to have the mounted archers box, the mounted samurai box, and I was thinking, your horse, it was movement +3 for having a horse, and it's not like that at all.
No.
Oh, okay.
The only advantage to movement is your 9-inch will move, which is great for some things. But there's been a huge amount of debate about that.
We'll discuss later when it comes down to what's good and what's bad about the rules. I think because there is a debate going on at the moment about all this, and obviously this is something
we did fix it. We did fix it within the rules, but apparently they didn't like that, so that got FAQ'd out.
Oh, okay.
Sigh.
We'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
Right. So we've got deployment. We've got these tokens which are effectively your command and control.
Mm-hmm.
We can move. Any interesting wrinkles about movement that we should be aware of?
None at all. As it stands, there's not a lot of terrain rules.
No.
You do lose an inch if you go over an obstacle, basically.
And I think you can only move up to 3 inches if you go over low, difficult terrain.
If there's the boggy terrain, basically, yeah, I can't remember what they call it.
Do opposing figures have zones of control? Can you move?
You can't go within an inch,
right?
Unless you're going into combat,
which
you have to charge. Yeah, sorry.
So essentially, if you're not charging, you've got to stop an inch short. If you actually want to engage in melee combat, you must charge.
Yes.
You must charge, yeah. Yeah, and the caveats to charging, you've got to charge the nearest enemy, you've got to shoot at the nearest enemy, but you can test not to. So we haven't been through the stats on the card, but one of them is how the dice work, in fact, I've just realised. But you can make something called a wit test, and if you pass your wit test, you don't have to shoot at the nearest target or charge the nearest target, and the better quality troop you've got, the more likely they are to pass that test.
Okay, so that
abilities.
Seems like a seamless link into abilities and stats then.
Okay, abilities and stats. Okay, it's all right. I've just grabbed the rule book in front of me.
And you have special dice as well.
Special dice.
Yeah. Oh yeah, special dice, which are a little bit on the small side.
Yeah, I like them. Right.
Okay.
I always use small dice.
Okay, so you have special X dice. I was kind of expecting them to be like the size of Saga dice, because Saga dice are nice and what Saga dice are they? 16, 18 mil, nice chunky ones, and these must be the 10 mil or 12 mil dice. So they're quite small. But yeah, special dice. They have, is it a couple of blank sides, 1 sword, 2 swords, and an X, isn't it? Something like that.
And basically, when you roll them, you count how many swords they've got on there. For each test you do, or each stat, it tells you how many dice you can roll. You roll that number of dice, and then you count up the number of swords you've got. And the rule that binds them all is that you must pass the test by getting 3 or more swords.
3 or more swords. If you score 5 or more swords, you're critical, and if you roll more X's than swords, you fumble.
Yeah.
The abilities, there are 6 of them. Well, 5 actually, because right. So there's aim, which basically looks at either melee or ranged combat. Then that's your ability in melee or ranged combat. There's agility, which is effectively your dodge skill. There's strength, which is your damage roll. There's wits, which this is what we were talking about when dice to roll. Like, for example, if you need to, you can take what they call a test of wits, fire at somebody who isn't the nearest enemy, charge somebody who isn't the nearest enemy, or do something else. There is honour, which is actually effectively your morale, also used in another way for heroes. And then finally there is activations, which is either usually 1, 2, or 3, depending whether you're a commoner or a samurai.
Yeah, you can use your, like we say, the overriding rule is 3 or more passes. So you can use the stats, and they do suggest this as in the more advanced rules. You can almost role-play it. So if you want to jump off the top of the building and do a somersault and land on somebody, you can, and you decide which stat you're using. Just the same as if you were role playing it, really. If you're trying to open something, if you make your own scenario, you might want to make people to make a wit roll to be able to open it or something like that. Yeah, it does lend itself to making your own scenarios, more exciting, really. So it's good.
So generally, what will happen is that most commoners, your average stat will be 3. So for any test, you'll be rolling 3 dice. For your bog standard samurai, your average stat is 4, and then for your hero, your average stat is 5.
And the advantage of having a group of commoners is that while there's at least 2 of them on the base, you normally get to roll an extra dice, so you're normally rolling 4 dice, which take a group of 2 commoners up to the same sort of threat as your non-hero samurai.
It's all a case of rolling dice and looking for successes.
Yeah. Once you successfully hit, so say if my samurai came at your lonely commoner, then I charge in, I throw my 5 dice, unless I've got any cards that enhance that. I throw my 5 dice, aim dice, looking for 3 or more hits. As long as I get 3, I've hit you. If I get 5, it triggers a critical hit, which will, depending on what sort of weapon you're using, either increase the damage. Well, yeah, it normally increases the damage or gives you more. We'll come on to those later, blood spots. So if I hit you, if you can evade because you've got an action left or because you've moved cautiously, so you don't need to use an action, you can have a free evade, then you roll your agility dice, again looking for 3 plus on the swords. If you manage to evade me, you nimbly jump back or jump away an inch, and instead of taking a full wound, you take a blood spot. You can accumulate as many blood spots as you can, but each blood spot, next time I hit you, it makes you easier to hit, it makes you easier to damage. So if you haven't evaded, I've at least done a light wound to you. I then roll my damage dice, and if I get 3 or more on my damage dice, I've done a heavy wound to you. Everybody but a samurai hero dies on a heavy wound. So there's no getting out of that one. So if you don't evade and the other person makes their strength roll, their damage roll, then unless you're a samurai hero, you've gone. So it's pretty brutal. The 3 base commoners obviously tend to last a bit longer because no matter how much damage you do on them, you only take 1 of them off at a time.
Can I go back and check on something on the avoid roll, Rich? I thought if you successfully made your avoid roll, you avoided damage completely, and it was only if you.
Oh yeah, sorry.
If you failed, if you subsequently
right.
failed your damage roll, then you took a blood spot. Is that right?
Yeah. Well, it's a light wound of the blood spot.
Yeah, it's a light wound. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, no.
I say if you fail your evade roll, you take at least a light wound.
Yes. But if you, if you pass your evade roll, then nothing happens. You've avoided it completely. It's designed to be quite kind of, allegedly quite fast and bloody.
If your samurai gets a heavy wound, then technically he should be gone too. But he gets get out of the box or get off the. Anyway, he avoids being killed by making an honor test, which is however many honor dice he's got. He has to try and make a 3 plus test again. If he manages that, he's only had a flesh wound.
Yeah.
When you draw an injury card, and the injury cards normally knock down one of your stats. You are, rules as written, only allowed to have 1 card, 1 injury card. So the second time that happens, you can't avoid it. Lots of people do tend to house rule. You can have as many injury cards as you like, but you end up like Monty Python like. I mean, obviously the samurai have a better chance of evading it. They don't have a better chance than anybody else of surviving the damage roll. So you really need to make your evade, which is where you need to be careful with using your activations up, because unless you move cautiously, you can't. Once you run out of activations, you can't evade.
Unless, of course, you happen to have picked up a fate card which gives you a skill. I mean, there are things like
there's caveats.
There's caveats within that. I mean, for example, you can pick up a skill card which says like deflect arrow, for example, which means you can spend that card once per turn to do a free evade against a bow shot, which which will represent you heroically knocking an arrow out of the air with your katana or something like that.
And also, if they fumble their damage roll, then it does a glancing hit, and you don't even take a light wound, or you don't even take a blood spot. Yeah, which is a light wound.
Yes.
So,
although the other thing is, if you fumble your avoid roll, you fall over.
Yeah, if you critical your evade, then you get to have a sneaky stab normally. Or you cause an accident to them if they're firing a bow at you, and that can cause 1 or maybe 2 damage or 2 blood spots to the other person. So there is a bit of interaction in fumbling and criticaling any roll has an effect basically.
It sounds as though this has the potential to be quite bloody.
It is quite bloody.
Oh yes,
it is very bloody, but I mean it does. I mean, they've made no qualms about it, and this is what I like about it. It does. You're supposed to be playing those Chambara movies or series. It's supposed to be like the old westerns that I watched when I was a kid. Yeah, it's a gunfight or a sword fight at the.
Doesn't necessarily lend itself to longevity of characters for campaigns.
Well, they're out the game. Killed is out the game.
Incapacitated.
Yeah, so in the campaign, basically, you drag your hero off, and he can carry wounds through to the next.
He hires a fresh bunch of minions.
Yeah, nobody cares about them anyway, so it's all right.
Some random other samurai comes up and offers his sword.
Yeah, well, you've got loads of them. Yeah. You've only taken a few out on the ride with you, so yeah, you've got a whole castle full.
Yeah.
You're fine.
If you think about it, the campaign system works very, very similar to, again, like Frostgrave, for example, where when it comes to campaigns, the only person you're really worried about is your hero. And
possibly his apprentice.
It's your hero and maybe your other samurai retainers that you're concerned about. Everybody else is just...
they're the only ones that are going to get any buffs.
Yeah.
Through the cards. So everybody else is expendable, really.
Now, the one thing we haven't talked about is the thing that we didn't, when we did the boot camp at the weekend, we didn't really worry about it too much, but it is actually quite an integral part of the game, which is morale, or, as it's termed in the game, loss of nerve.
You're never going to lose anybody, well, unless you're very unlucky, off the table. It's a one-off thing as well, so once you fluff your morale, you retreat a full move away, but then that wipes it out. You're until you fail another roll, which is normally taken when somebody gets cut up into 1,000 pieces near you, then you're fine. There's no ongoing morale state. You just have to test when somebody within so many inches gets killed, or when other things happen. Some of the cards make you test and things. But on the whole, it's you test when somebody near you's been cut down, and the result of failing is you move back and move. Yeah. Which, unless you're doing it, means that you can't drive people off objectives until they're dead and things. So it is quite an important mechanism, especially when you start playing with objectives, because you can drive somebody away from the objective rather than having to kill them. Samurai have to take the test as well, but the better you are, the more likely you are to pass the test. So that's how that pans out.
This is it, especially with samurai, that kind of you have a commoner cut down in front of you, you just kind of go, yeah, that was a commoner. It doesn't matter to me.
Yeah, but occasionally you roll badly, then you remember that commoner was married to your best friend's daughter.
Indeed.
And it does make you feel a bit of remorse and think, oh, I'm in trouble now. So you do have a breather and go back a bit. Yeah. But on the whole, you're not going to care.
Now, there is a nuance involved in loss of nerve, and it's something we haven't talked about yet. There is an extra card that you can use in games called dishonour cards. If you happen to be a particularly disreputable samurai, you can, in the course of the game, take a dishonour card to perform some form of dirty lowdown trick. It will usually be either when you're trying to hit somebody, well, it's when you're normally taking a test. And if you think that test is important, if you wish, you can take a dishonour card. And what that will do is that will give you an extra dice for which to perform that test with. So it gives you a better chance of passing that particular test. However, these dishonour cards then stack up on your side of the table. And the next time anybody takes a loss of nerve, these dishonour cards start to count against that loss of nerve test. And means you start having to take loss of nerve tests with less dice. Basically, it means that you're warband like fighting with an honourable samurai. And if you're doing dishonourable and disreputable things, they will be less inclined to fight with you and more inclined to run away.
Yeah.
And entirely reasonable.
It does, but taking a dishonour card is the normal. Well, in our games, it's the normal thing to do when you need to hit somebody. Make sure you hit somebody, unless you're playing. I think the day Neil went to, everybody forgot to use them when you do. Well, forgot the test of will.
It's more of a case of
running away.
Yeah, everybody was using or quite a few people were using. Well, no, a few people were using dishonour. A lot of people were very honourable and didn't even bother with them, but a few people were using a lot of dishonour and basically ignored their negative aspects, despite the fact that actually they don't have a particular. The negative aspect isn't particularly great in a standalone game, is it?
Again, it'll make the difference. Probably make the difference between you standing a group of commoners on an objective, because they have to test to. I keep saying run away. What's it called? What's the actual term?
Well, it's a.
We call it the running away test, but it's not the running away.
It's loss of nerve.
Loss of nerve. That's one. If they don't have to make the loss of nerve test, then it's actually quite hard to kill a group of commoners because there's 3 on there. They do accumulate blood spots, which makes it easier to kill. But as soon as one's killed, the blood spots disappear. So it doesn't have an ongoing effect. So basically, you're having to destroy 3 figures. And really, it's as hard to kill a commoner as it is to kill a samurai if you take the evade out of it.
Hmm.
So the only thing that the samurai and the samurai heroes got going for it is they're more likely to be able to make an evade because they've got more actions. If you've all run out of actions, it's as easy to kill a samurai as it is to kill a commoner. So to get rid of those 3 commoners is quite hard. So if you've got a set of 3 commoners sitting on the objective, you need to be using the running away test to make them move away from the objective. Otherwise, you're going to spend quite a bit of time trying to kill them. If that makes sense.
Yes.
Although it hasn't got a drastic effect. It does affect when you play, especially when you're playing a game with objectives, it does have a better effect. In a campaign type, even if you're just running a club campaign, the more dishonour cards you take, the more likely you are to carry them over to the next game as well.
Oh yes, yeah.
There is a downside.
Your reputation precedes you, as it were.
Yeah, there is a continuing downside. But it's not game breaking by any mean. But it is useful for driving people off objectives or moving away from you as well, sort of thing.
Ending scenarios, is it scenario specific? Is there some kind of overall false morale thing?
There's no false morale. The only morale you've got is the runaway test,
right?
And I've never had anything run off the table yet because you normally meet about in the middle, so you don't take enough tests to go off.
So I think are we last man standing, kind of?
I see it as it's got to be a scenario-driven game,
right?
Because otherwise, it's every time it's just having a go at each other, and your samurai will die in that situation. Your samurai can die from a lucky arrow shot. and it's happened in the first turn in more than one game.
Yeah.
Because if they hit you, even if you can evade, if you avoid your evade, if they throw reasonably well on their damage, you're dead. If you're a hero samurai, you might be able to cheat it once, but you've still got to make that test.
Full values of dead that we mean dragged off by your entourage and patched up for the next game.
Out the game.
Yeah.
Out the game.
Order
so
combat.
they are not your Toshiro Mifune by any means. Even your heroes, they're not going to wade through. They're not automatically going to be able to wade through heaps of commoners. The good thing is it can happen, and when it does, it's a really good feeling. But they are heroes, but they're not superheroes. You've got to sort of keep that in mind, I think. So it's got to be scenario driven, and the scenarios in the book are pretty good. I mean, they work through. They're aimed at getting you introducing a new layer of complexity for the first three, and they do have scenario rules in for escorting people. There's one way you've got to go in and get somebody off the battlefield. There's one way you've got to go and find a spy and bring him back, or kill the spy or capture the spy and take him back.
There's another one, like, for example, where effectively one player is defending a village from another, so there are a number of objectives in a village.
You've got to hang on before your reinforcements arrive, in theory and stuff. And there is a turn limit on most of the games as well. And if that turn limit hits without any of the objectives being, without an overriding objective counting, then it's done on number of points you've got left on the table, basically. I wouldn't want to play the let's kill each other every time, because it would be a fairly any game. I think any skirmish game just gets boring if you're just trying to kill the opposition all the time. So it's like any small skirmish game. It's in the end, it's going to be the scenario you're playing, which will add to the fun, I think. And in the book, there is the set of 5. I think is it 5?
6.
6 scenarios.
It's 6 scenarios. 5 if you ignore the first one, which is basically a kill the opponent hero.
Yeah. So I mean, it'll keep you going until you're happy enough to make your own scenarios up using the ideas that are in the book. I mean, there's a quite a good replay value with the scenarios anyway, but even more so when you play scenario 2, for instance, you're probably up to, 12 or 15 points or whatever. I think it's 12 points recommended. Then that scenario feels very different when you play it with 24 points. So there is a replay value on the scenarios anyway. It'd be quite good to go back and play the campaign at 24 points rather than the increasing number of points as well. It would give you a completely different game, I think. But in the end, you're going to be making your own scenarios up or hoping they come out with more, which they're supposed to be doing. So hopefully they will do. And there's already fan ones floating around. So
are we about there as regards the nuts and bolts of the game, do you think?
Yeah, it's not a particularly complicated game, to be honest.
Ooh.
Mechanics-wise, it's fairly simple. The complexity comes in when you start adding the cards a bit. It is a game, not a simulation, like we've already said. It is a game that's supposed to produce the feeling of a fast-moving Chambara movie, which most of the time it does that. You can get your samurai hero on a real roll. If you crit your damage roll, then some of the weapons, if you're equipped with some of the weapons, that allows you to do a follow-on move. And that's basically another charge. So you can, if you're lucky, get your samurai to charge into somebody, kill them, charge into somebody, kill them, charge into somebody. If you keep the damage roll critting, which is you're getting 5 swords showing, and some of the buffs, some of the cards, some of the upgrades will allow you to roll more dice for that damage. So that will give you a better chance of
making that easier. Yeah.
That will make it easier for you to steamroll through. Possibly, it's harder to take out groups of 3, but if you push them back, when you hit somebody, if you do a damage, you push them back. So if the group of 3, if you go in and kill one of them, you will push them back, which means that if you get the follow-on, you can then go into them again. So we have had occasions where one samurai has finished off a group by getting the follow-on each time. I mean, you're lucky if you do it, or if you've got upgrades that allow you to be more likely to be lucky, if you know what I mean. But sometimes it does. You do get that. Whoa! I think in one of the games we had at the campaign day I ran, then one of them was getting somebody off the table, and one of Alex, who went up to the day, one of his samurai managed to basically, by doing the follow-on and killing people, move about 3/4 of the way across the board.
Oh, right.
And he just didn't have enough to get to the person that was running off with the spy or whatever. But for a time, it was getting everybody who was around the table sort of hollering for him.
Yeah, we had the opposite. We had the opposite one where it was the same scenario. You have to get a spy off the table. I found the spy on my side of the board, and so my samurai was escorting the spy off the board. I was playing Sam. Hello, Sam. If you're listening, he basically got all his activations in a row, charged his samurai hero across the table. Then I managed to throw a Ashigaru in the way of him, at which point he attacked the Ashigaru, criticaled him, killed him, charged into my hero, criticaled my hero, killed him, and seized the spy off me. So I mean, especially considering we just had a discussion about, this is really unfair. We were having discussions about objective placements and the fact that, because it doesn't particularly stipulate exactly where you can place objectives. So depending on what type of game you want, in some of the scenarios, you can end up placing objectives quite near to your side of the table. And we were wondering about that when basically, I basically made a test on this particular objective that I reached to, which meant that the spy was on my side of the board. And we were discussing that, and we went, well, we'll carry on anyway. And then, say Sam's samurai made this heroic move right across the table, and then took out, let's say, using that to follow on, took out 2 of my guys and recaptured the spy, which is which is great.
It can happen, yeah. Just adding to the objective placement there, it's not as bad as Neil possibly made it sound there, because you can, on that particular scenario, you each place out so many objectives. You can place them quite close to you, but when you get there, you have to test whether the spy is there or whether the treasure is there or whatever. So it's not a foregone conclusion that the one nearest to you is going to be the one.
No.
But if you're lucky, it can be the first one you get to. So the other thing we didn't talk about really was cover and stuff, and the effect it has on melee and firing. They've kept it very simple. Any sort of obstacle terrain, unless they've now brought in the low obstacle, but a wall or a hedge blocks line of sight, basically. So you cannot fire over it unless you're up against it. And that caused a few rankles to be raised, heckles to be raised, I think. Yeah. But it's a definite game mechanic thing, because you can use ranged weapons like I say, I use my bowmen like they're all equipped with an MG42. Like I use them to pin things down.
Yeah.
Because if you hit something, they have to evade. If they've only got one activation in there, unless they move cautiously, then they've just used up their activation for a turn evading my arrow. So you can effectively pin groups of commoners down, and you can effectively make samurais lose their actions by firing at them with an arrow and making them stand there, whacking them out the air. So if you had terrain that you could fire over or through, even if it made it a bit more difficult, then I think it would the pinning effect would be even greater. So not 100% sure of this, but I suspect that was a game mechanic to stop you keeping archers at very long range just pinning people down. Which still happens, but if you've got a bit of scenery on there you can't see over, then at least you can maneuver using that blind spot sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's the things we'll come on to when we discuss what's good about the game, what's not quite, what's not quite so good, and discussion points, I think.
Yeah.
Which is about where I got to, unless you have anything else to cover.
No, fine.
I quite like to sort of give an overall feeling, because once we get on to the aspects that haven't gone down so well, then I think it would be a bit too easy to dwell on those, I think.
I was going to allow for the good as well. I mean, the section I have here, in a slight misappropriation of genre, is called "The Good and the Bad and the Ugly."
Good, bad, and ugly, yeah.
Except for the fact that's from a spaghetti western, which actually is just a western version of the samurai films in the first place.
Yeah, fair.
Yeah, it's just a remake anyway.
Yeah,
it's just a remake.
Let's roll the good, the bad, and the ugly theme music and start with the good. Rich.
Right. The good is it's a really good fun game to play. I mean, I'm quite picky with games on the whole. You'd imagine with a samurai game I'd be really picky because of, well, not just gaming background, but martial artsy type background. And I love it. It's good fun. Don't enter into it thinking it's going to be a good representation of Japanese sword fighting. Just enter into it with it's a good representation of a Saturday morning romp on the TV. It is good fun. It works well. It's very smooth. I mean, I think Sean and I, my long-suffering games partner, I'm pretty sure we ran through the campaign in a night. Yeah, we certainly did 3 or 4 of the games, and I think we ran through the entire campaign in a night. So it is fast and furious. And the good bits, samurai. You're going around, it's easy to pick up. It feels right. The activation system, while obviously there's quite a few other things around like it, works well. The fate system throws a bit of a spanner in the works. If you're unlucky, or if you leave your hero samurai till the end, you might be unlucky and not actually get to do anything with him that turn. So there is a bit of a nuance in there about what you choose to do. The cautious movement works quite well because that gives you a free evade. You can learn that moving full tilt all the time and doing as much as you can right away with your samurai is not a good idea, because then somebody's just going to sit and hack him with and like we said, no evade roll makes you as easy to die as a hero samurai is easy to die as a commoner. I like it. It is a good fun game.
Yeah, no, I wholeheartedly agree with that. It's a blast. It's a definite fun game end of the spectrum, but inside of that, it does what it says on the tin really well. It has a decent set of mechanics, and works well within them. So I don't think it sets itself up to be anything particularly, I was going to say groundbreaking, but that's not what I mean. I don't think it sets itself up to be anything particularly serious. You kind of you take it as you find it, and as you say, it does set itself out, stall out to be Saturday morning cinema, or you're playing Yojimbo or Seven Samurai or that sort of thing. So, and it does what it says on the tin.
And you are the Musashi figure. If you're the hero, you're the Musashi figure wandering around with a stick, beating people up as easily as he would be if he was wandering around with a katana. It's good fun. It's good fun.
I mean, another thing I think has to be mentioned. A good thing about it: price point. Now this will go into what comes with the game. Okay, so in the base game, you get.
In a way, I think this is a combination of the good, bad, and the very ugly.
Yeah, and we'll kind of get into this. Okay, right. We'll come on to the ugly in a minute, but a good thing is it's actually from that sort of game. It is pretty cheap to get into the game. The base game, which gives you enough figures to make up 2 forces for either side, and everything you need, is £35.
Yeah.
So, from a good
I think the recommended. Is the recommended more than that? But you can get it for that kind.
Yeah. It's around £35-40. But certainly price point to get in for a two-player game is pretty cheap. In the base game is everything you'll ever need to play. So you can actually get a decent game for not a huge amount of outlay. So that is a good point. However, there are some issues. We've kind of hinted as we talked all along. There are.
Are we going on to the bad now, or the ugly?
We'll do
Are we
the bad.
talking about what? Are we continuing talking about what you get in the box, or going on to anything bad?
Well, I was going to talk about figures and everything in a minute. Let's talk about potentially bad about the mechanics. Or bad, or kind of interesting, or kind of, we hope we fix it. Because, I mean, one thing, obviously, remember, this is a brand new game, and as such, it's been out in the playing community for, 2 months? No, not even that long at the moment. But, well, by the time you're hearing this, it's probably been played for a couple of months. And there are certainly things that people maybe don't agree with, and possibly think, that's interesting. The biggest issue, or one of the big issues, I think, is with cavalry. In the fact of, other than the fact that mounts give you bonus movement, that's all they give you.
At the moment, they're too expensive for what you get. Now, there are, if you get the cavalry, each expansion box you buy, which is another warband, gives you some extra specific cards that you can put in to the Fate deck. There are a couple of cards in the Mounted Samurai box which will help your Mounted Samurai, especially with the charging and things. But considering you can't put them on the commoners, they're not going to help your normal samurai archers and things. So basically, as it stands, they're quite expensive, and people are finding it hard, as in points-wise, people are finding it hard to find a justification behind having a mounted archer that costs, I think, nearly twice as much as a... Sorry?
I think mounted archers cost either 3 or 4 points. I think it's 4 points.
Yeah.
I think, it's either 3 or 4.
So it gives you one figure with a bow, which is nowhere near as good as the 3 archers on a 3-figure base, which costs
less too
as much, costs less. There's no plus side to it. People can't. I've not seen any. I take one. I take a mounted archer in my samurai warband because I had the points at the end. I had enough. I didn't have enough points to get another group, but I had enough point to just have a mounted. The 1 point I needed to just have a mounted archer. Basically, because you can move 9, it's quite fast at moving around. Good for nabbing objectives right at the end of the game. But apart from that, I've not seen anybody use them. I haven't seen anybody have a warband based around mounted figures because you just don't get the bang for your buck.
No, I mean that's the thing. I mean, mounted troops are massively expensive. Basically, it costs you 2 points for the horse, which is the same as it costs you for a base of 3 commoners. And considering all the
like
horse
we said,
does,
the 3 commoners are quite hard to get rid of, aren't they?
That's it. I mean, your 3 spearmen or 3 bowmen or even 3 musketmen are a really good point to have in your force for 2 points, and instead of that you get the ability to move 9 inches, and especially with the fact that mounted troops, I mean, you don't even get a strength bonus when
you're rolling less dice as well.
Yeah,
on your aim test, because if you've got a group which is normally 3 dice, but you get 4 dice because there's 2 or 3 of them, well, for the mounted one you only get your 3 dice. So there's no there's no point as it stands.
You don't even get a strength bonus for charging somebody on a horse.
No.
Now, admittedly, the vast majority of samurai horses, it's not like it's not that like they're using European war horses. Samurai horses were much smaller and what have you. But even so,
Well, at the time we're talking about, they were basically big ponies.
Yeah, with the exception of a single clan. Basically they're big ponies. But even so, as I say, considering the amount of points they cost, they're not worth a points investment. Yes, they're better spent elsewhere.
So we had a big discussion of this on the Facebook group, and as the rules are written, there is elevated terrain, and all the rules say is if you're higher than your opponent, you get a +1 on your aim if you're shooting or meleeing. So, considering the horses already get a negative, you're suffering if you're fighting spear on a horse anyway. So not only are you only as good as a commoner spearman, you're actually worse off because they get bonuses hitting you because they've got a spear and you've got a horse. So rules as written, I must admit I might have been the one to bring this one up. Is that if you actually are in an elevated position?
Yes.
So we were saying, right, you should get the +1. You should get the extra dice. And everybody was like, yeah, that'd solve it. That would solve the issue.
Yeah.
Because you would get an extra dice for firing and be able to see over terrain that you can't normally see over and get an extra dice when you're fighting. And I think everybody would have been happy with that.
Yeah, except for the fact then, was it?
Except for the people that mattered, who then wrote in the FAQs that you don't count as being elevated.
If you're matted, you don't count as being elevated. And it was like, they nerfed it. And it was like, it was such a simple fix.
But I think that a lot of people are house ruling that. But I don't know. The argument's there. It's a skirmish game. What are horses doing there anyway?
It adds a bit of flavour.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see. I've got no issue really with it. So I was just trying to fix things that people were having an issue with, and then sort of dragging it through the mud.
I mean, one question I've got, which I don't know what you got a view on this. Now we mentioned about the fact that you get the expansion boxes with different factions. So you basically get Samurai and Ashigaru in the main box, and then there are currently 4 different separate factions. I mean, there are 5 boxes because you can buy another Samurai warband if you like, but there are 4 warbands. There's Mounted Samurai, there are Ronin, there's what they call Pauper Soldiers, and the Masked Men. Okay. What's your view on, from the forces that you've seen, do you think that the particular factions actually differentiate enough between them on the cards, or do you think it's a case of, well, okay, what they're doing is you've got one hero in that faction, and then
it gives you a different flavour to the warband for you to paint up and for you to play with it in your head. The only real difference is your hero.
Yeah,
basically.
That's kind of what I was thinking. Yeah,
and I think that's all right. It gives you the option of buying the expansion box, which does give you a couple of extra fate cards, which you may get. They suggest 2 ways of using the fate cards. Either you have your own deck. At the beginning of the game, you draw as many fate cards out of a big deck as you've got samurai actions. So, like I say, normally you end up with 7 cards out of a deck of however many there are. But by the time you've got the expansions in there, it's close to 50, I think. So you draw your 7 cards out, and then if you're the recipient of a fate token, the first 1 or 2 turns of they come out in the game round, you can take a card. So you're normally only going to get like 6 cards in the game out. And it's those cards that give the other feel to your warband. So you can either lump them all together and everybody's got a chance of getting the same cards, or they suggest you can theme your fate deck so you're more likely to get the cards that go with your particular faction or have the feel of your particular faction more. We tend to lump them all in, to be honest, because they're still pretty generic anyway.
Yeah.
But as far as that, I mean, there's very little you can differentiate with the stats, because the only difference between a loyal and a wise samurai is that one gets more wit and one gets more honor. So one's less likely to run away, and one's more likely to be able to shoot or attack whoever it likes. And that's a theme that runs through all the expansions. And you're talking about having a stat which lets you roll 3, 4, or 5 dice. That's the difference between a commoner rolling 3, groups of commoner rolling 4, your average samurai rolling 4, and your hero samurai rolling 5 dice. So there is not a lot you can differentiate. You're never going to have a completely different feel through differentiating the stats, because there's no leeway there. So the expansions, as far as I can see, it just give you something, make your own warband, paint it up in whatever theme you like, and in your head you can be having a backstory.
Yeah, and of course the other thing is as well, I suppose, because the point systems are so close together between a commoner and a samurai, there's only a couple of points difference as far as the cards are concerned. Again, there's not a fantastic scope for differentiation, is there? So,
no. I mean, you're all deemed to be armoured, you samurai, unless you take the unarmoured card, which makes it easier for you to evade, but easier for them to damage you.
Yeah.
If you don't evade. So again, it's a swings and roundabouts thing. There's no great depth in kitting out your character, but nor should there be. I don't think for the level of skirmish game that it's fast and furious that it's aimed at. Going back to your point, I think the expansions are there so you can theme your army if you want to. There's a few extra cards in each one, but in the end, it's not going to make a huge amount of difference. I mean, like Sean, my friend, says, he's often very objective at this. I mean, I'm just thinking the whole samurai thing and doing this. Sean sat there and saying, well, we may as well be playing pirates.
That's right, yeah.
It's true. There's no... I don't like saying it, but there's very little in the game that makes it a Japanese-based game.
Yes.
Apart from the figures you're using and the drawings on the cards. I mean, they don't... Which is... I don't think this is a bad thing. There's no terminology you've got to learn. I mean, when I wrote it, I used a lot of Japanese terminology that you need to get your head around. But that was just because I'm a bit of a nerd with that particular thing. That's not existent. So you haven't got... I don't like saying it, but the only Japanese feel, really, is what you put into it.
When you compare it to a game like the one whether it's Bushi or whether it's something like Daisho, for example, or even Ronin.
Or Bushido.
Or Bushido. Oh, yeah. I mean, the other samurai, the other samurai skirmish games on the market probably do a better job of theme.
Yeah.
But at the same time, as I say, it's one of those things. Test of Honour it's kind of is what it is. I mean, as I say, in the skill cards, they try to introduce some theme in the skill cards. They try to introduce a little bit of theme in some of the heroes. But yeah, as you say, you could easily be playing a Western. You could easily be playing another generic.
I don't think that's a bad thing. That's not a bad thing. I don't think that should automatically put, go in the bad column.
No,
it's a fact. I think it's just
it
is fairly generic, and it's meant to be. I think. So, that's it's good in itself because I can see people modding it quite easily to. We've already sort of begun on a sort of Musketeers type thing. Three Musketeers. It's a good base system. They're selling it as a samurai game, and that's brilliant because it's getting people into playing samurai games, and that's good.
It almost seems in some ways that although they kind of introduced this relatively simple set of rules, with the work that's and the discussions that have gone in the community and what's come out, it almost in some ways seems a little bit like it's still almost like I don't want to sound harsh to say it's almost like a work in progress, but you know what I mean?
From what the authors have said, though, I mean, they a lot of the stuff that they'd already worked on was taken out to streamline it and make it the base game very simple to get into.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they did have rules for fighting inside a building. They did have more detailed terrain rules. But the remit of getting the base core game out was they wanted... Warlord obviously wanted it very simple.
Yeah.
So some of those things got shaved back. And I think some of them got shaved back a bit too far so that it causes problems.
Yeah.
Especially the terrain. The terrain, I think, is. I mean, I don't have a problem with it because you go with it, but I can see the lack of terrain rules. Really, I've got no problem with a hedge blocking line of sight because if you've ever been in, a walk anywhere with a real hedge, you don't see over it. So I don't have any problem with that sort of thing. But
they need to fix not being able to fight in buildings.
Yeah, and there's also the other quirky things that obviously didn't get played through when they started shaving bits off. Like, if you can only move 3 inch in difficult terrain, your move is 3 inch. So therefore, can you cautiously move? Nobody will say. They haven't even come back with an answer to that. Can you cautiously move through difficult terrain? Because that's still a 3 inch move, and your actual move is 3 inch. So
do you in fact inherently only move cautiously through difficult terrain?
Yeah. And the other thing is difficult terrain. If you only move 3 inches through it, technically, rules as written, you can never fight because you can't charge.
Yes.
It explodes.
And same through a rice paddy. They cleared the whole. To begin with, rules as written, you can't see over a rice paddy because it's a bit of terrain and a terrain block line of sight. So they quickly sort of like backtracked on the fact, actually that's low-lying terrain, which doesn't block line of sight. Now that's obvious to anybody playing, but like we all know, you're going to get people reading and go,
yeah.
Any sensible person, and I'm sure everybody that was playtesting it and the authors counted a rice paddy as being able to see over it. But
river.
When the rules got shaved, to put in the rule booklet, all terrain block line of sight.
There's a moral here somewhere, isn't there?
Yeah, and all of a sudden, you can't charge in you can't fight in a rice paddy. As it stands, unless you house rule it, you can't fight in a rice paddy.
Because you can never charge because you can't move. Yeah.
Okay. Can I comment at this point?
Yeah.
I mean, I as Neil will recall, I went on record as possibly being slightly cynical and saying this is Warlord trying to make money out of War Games Factory's range by throwing together a set of rules that allow them to monetize the samurai figures. Now, I have to be honest with you two. I've not actually heard anything to disabuse me of that notion. The major adjective I'm not hearing either of you say, but seems to me to describe these rules, is rushed.
I don't think they're a rushed set. I think that
they sound
core, are very sound. The core mechanics, like the damage, everything works really well. The activation works well. The melee, the fighting works well. The damage works well. The cards work well. I think it was a good full set of rules that the guys came up with. The remit to get the box set out was to shave the rules down so that it was a simple entry set of rules to go in the box. Okay, and I think with that shaving, and I do think that they wanted a simple set of base entry rules to go in the box so they could offload the figures. I agree with you there. Because the figures are rubbish.
We've been hunting at the ugly, and the ugly are definitely...
The ugly are the figures. Anyway, we'll come back to that. But I think the guys have suffered through the fact that they've had to shave so much off it. So I think if you could play their play-tested set of full rules, then I think a lot of the things we're talking about, by the sounds of how they're talking, or between the lines...
Do these exist?
That they exist, because they say, well, they already exist and we're going to bring them out as a PDF.
Right.
And I think they do already exist. And he's come online and said, yeah, well, we've got more complicated terrain rules, but they didn't go in the box. We've got fighting in buildings, but it didn't make it in the box because it had to be kept simple. So I don't think it's a rush set of rules because they've been working on them for 2 or 3 years. What's happened, I think, is a solid set of rules got pared away at to fit in with a level entry, easy level entry box set. That's my. I could be wrong, but that's my feeling.
To be fair, if you didn't know that,
if you didn't know
you
that,
could see how they could feel rushed.
Well, I don't know, because it depends on the level of gamer you're looking at as well, I think.
Yeah, but in the sense
of unfortunately, I think it's going to attract people that are already into the period, who are then going to. Your experienced gamer is going to pick holes in those terrain rules in about 10 seconds. And most experienced gamers will then go, well, okay, obviously you can see over that terrain, but you can't see over that terrain. Obviously that blocks your movement. Like, obviously your charge in a rice paddy is going to be 3 inch instead of 6 inch. That's what most normal gamers are going to do.
I think my point was more that you could from a distance and with your with not possessing your knowledge, see it as, well, we came up with a cool mechanic and never quite finished the job.
I think that might be a danger. Yeah, I think they were. I think the guys that wrote it were pretty hard done to.
Would not surprise me.
Not hard. I don't mean harshly treated. I think it's a disservice to them to.
Yeah.
I mean, the rules are an A5 booklet that I don't know how many pages it is, but it's not a lot.
16 pages.
16 pages, and then a couple of things you need to know out of the battle book to go with the rules, which are another 2 or 3 pages.
Yeah.
So,
but the point being that you and I know how this kind of thing comes about from the distance of somebody who doesn't understand the way a set of rules could end up in a box. You can see how it could be looked at that way. It seems to me that, as you say, the rules as they come in the box are possibly doing the game a disservice.
Yes and no, and as I say, what they're doing is that they're releasing a set of what they're deeming as optional rules on PDF, and that's free download PDF. To say, okay, well, and maybe they could have turned around and said, okay, in the way that, for example, Fantasy Flight produce things, where they have, this is what you need to play a basic game, and then you can introduce advanced rules. Okay, so they could have done it in that way. They've chosen to go in a different direction. There are a few issues with the rules as written. At the same time, there's nothing that particularly breaks the game. There are just some things you kind of go, well, yeah, that could have been done better. Those don't seem to quite make sense. I just say nothing particularly unsurmountable.
Even the terrain things we've been talking about, there's no difficult terrain rice paddy terrain in the box.
No.
That sort of terrain is hinted at one point in the rules about difficult movement through terrain. If they hadn't put that in altogether, then it would be no issue to somebody new playing the game, because there isn't that terrain in the box to worry about. So again, it's almost like the rules have been written for what's in the box, or pared down, so it fits with what's in the box. You then start getting problems if you start adding your own terrain or some of the things out of the expansions. I think that's the...
Yeah. I think that's a fair comment. Now, when you come on to...
Time for the ugly.
The worst thing about it...
Well, we've done the bad. What have we done for the bad? We've done the cavalry. That's bad.
Yeah.
Right.
Terrain is okay.
Or don't worry about it. Just don't use cavalry. It's a skirmish samurai game. You shouldn't be on a horse anyway. Get off. The terrain rules are okay for the terrain you get in the box. Okay for the base game. Going to leave you in the lurch once you try and add a river, add a stream, add a rice paddy, or add most other sort of terrain you can think of.
Yeah.
Right. But it works for what's in the box. And they've said they'll come up with more advanced terrain rules very soon. So that sort of negates that niggle, I think. Right, ugly.
Yeah.
Oh, another bad thing.
Go
no
on.
ninjas yet.
Yeah, no ninjas. According to both Andy and Graham, everybody says, when can we have a ninja warband? So more likely than not, there's going to be a ninja warband appearing in the first set of other expanded warbands.
They haven't got the figures for them yet. I mean,
No.
I make my ninja warband by using just mass men and saying that they've got thrown weapons, which are short range weapons and short swords. Easy fix.
Yeah. But as you've already hinted at, the one thing that they turn around and says, yeah, can we turn around and make a samurai game because we have this range of samurai figures from War Games Factory? Which I think the best thing you can say about them is that they are serviceable.
I never liked them. They were one of the first plastic sets they made, weren't they? Really?
Yeah, they were certainly some of the earlier stuff. Yeah,
before they figured out how to undercut properly and stuff like that. They were good at the time. Maybe they were very good at the time if you wanted to build a Warhammer Ancients army. Because they were cheap, pretty easy to put together, painted up quick. They're horrible for a skirmish game. And they're not. I don't like the figures. I just don't like them.
For the price point, and for the price point that you get for the game, you get 35 plastic miniatures in the game. Yeah, they're not great.
They're not great. They've used the same sprues, so you get an army building sprue for a skirmish game.
Yeah.
So you don't need somebody who's carrying the ammo box. You don't need somebody who's beating the rhythm. You don't need. There's lots on there that you don't need.
Although to be fair, they do have cards for musicians and stuff in the game. They do. You can actually add them into your force, but no, you don't necessarily need them, and it's certainly a case of, because of the way the sprues come out, you could potentially end up with some troops in very awkward poses that they wouldn't take on in a skirmish game.
And also, I mean, all the Yari, all the spearmen have got battlefield spears. They've got massive spears. They haven't got skirmish spears. They haven't got Yari. They haven't got Nagant Yari, which are your 6-7 foot spears that you use in close combat, which are they're very good. They haven't got that. They've got the 12-foot pikes, basically.
Yeah.
Which are fine when there's 50 of you. You can't wield it. You cannot wield them. So, from a nerdy point of view, it annoys me whenever I see them, because you wouldn't be carrying it about. Why the heck would you be carrying that around with you? You wouldn't carry your battlefield Yari around with you to use in an emergency, because it's so unwieldy. So all the spearmen just look ridiculous, I think.
And
you can't have a group of 3 with them and say, "Oh, I've got a group of..." Yeah, you've got a group of spearmen. You haven't got a phalanx, which is basically what you're building on the battlefield when you're using them. I don't know.
Yeah, and in that sense, that is where it does come across as, Warlord are making a game to make a use of all these plastic sprues that they have bought.
I mean, you can cut them down, but nobody's doing it. So maybe it's just me being picky, but yeah, I just don't like those sprues. Full stop. The samurai heroes end up looking very plasticky, and I mean, most people, let's face it, are using other manufacturers' figures.
Yes. I mean, let's face it, for what's out there, most people are using either their start off with things like their running war bands, or they've used
old Dixons or Perrys.
Perrys. Yeah, an awful lot of people are just going, right, okay, Perrys. Yeah, and especially the fact that actually, price-wise, Perrys are probably some of the best 28mm samurai out there, price-wise.
Anyway, I mean, you only need 25 of them, so, I mean, the most you're going to need is 25. So, you're not looking at a massive outlay anyway. No. I don't know. I'd like to think that they didn't just put them in to get rid of them, but I don't know.
Yeah, and I mean, and in the expansions, basically what they've done is that they produced a single hero figure, and then they've done all these head swaps. Okay, you got 5 or 10 head swaps, which to make your figures look a little bit different.
And putting metal heads on plastic figures.
Yeah,
it isn't the easiest to achieve. for somebody that might not be as experienced as. Another thing about rushing the figures out, maybe the instructions that come with that, with the box set.
Yeah.
Whoever it was that got, I'd like to think it was just some desk monkey that got, right, here's the CAD of the 3Ds for the figures. Yeah, put them together on an instruction sheet for us. Okay. And it's like, it's been very frustrating, to say the least. You get an instruction sheet with the box set of how to put the samurai together, and whoever put the instruction sheet together using the graphics that they were given, obviously not knowing much about the history, has stuck this sword raised above one of the samurai's head in quite a good action pose, which then got people talking about, what was this weird Japanese sword with the big ball on it, 3/4 of the way down the blade, to having very knowledgeable people then come out and say, "Oh, that's a heavy sword. They put weights on it. They put weights on it to make it heavier. So that's your heavy sword option." No, they didn't. It's actually still in its saya. It's still in its sheath, and the ball on it makes it so you can stick it in the plastic figure's hands, so he can be carrying it out of his belt. But in the instruction sheet, it shows him holding this still sheathed katana above his head, which appears to have a big weight 3/4 of the way down it. Which then brought, I don't know, I just hope everybody that said it is now feeling like a complete and utter prat, coming out all over the forums and everything saying, "Don't worry, that's a Japanese heavy sword. It had a weight 3/4 of the way down it." It's like, yeah.
Oh dear.
Words that I cannot say on Neil's podcast. Spring to
Yes,
mind.
yes, you can say them. He has a bleep button.
But whoever did it, I mean, it's caused so much trouble because all over the internet now, there's pictures of people holding a still sheathed sword with a apple 3/4 of the way down it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
so rushed maybe. That might actually confirm your suspicions a bit there.
Indeed.
That's the very ugly. That's my only very ugly.
That's the very ugly, is it? Okay.
Yeah.
I think overall conclusion.
Go for it.
Overall conclusion, I love the game. It's really good fun. And full stop. I mean, that's all I need to know.
Agreed. I mean, we played 5 games on Saturday, and it was a blast. Really, really enjoyed it. It's a good, fun game.
Paying £35 for the rules as is and the tokens and the dice that you get in the box, I still think you haven't been ripped off. You may, if you're into Samurai, you might want to buy it. You probably never use the figures, which then means you're buying the expansion boxes for 2 or 3 cards. But then they're fairly cheap. You sell the figures on to people that don't know any different.
Is it a top 5 games of 2017 contender?
I can see me playing it an awful lot.
I can see me playing it a lot. I mean, like, for example, it's a game that I play probably a lot with Josh. Josh is really into Samurai. I'm really into Samurai. It's a fun game to play on a Saturday morning or what have you.
If you're experienced, you'll make scenarios up for it that are really good fun. So that's half the hassle out of the way. If you're not so experienced, then hopefully there'll be lots more scenarios coming out. I mean, I think one of the magazines just ran basically 7 Samurai scenario set, just haven't they? Who was it?
Yeah, I think it was War Games Illustrated, wasn't it?
Hold it. Got it on the sofa. Yes, it was. Yeah. So, I mean, there's going to be scenarios out there, and that's what you need, I think. I mean, I'll certainly be writing some, I think, anyway. Sticking somewhere. There's already a couple out and about. And
to be fair, you can always adapt. The best scenario generator I've found for Samurai games comes out of Daisho, and you can always basically grab the scenario generator out of Daisho and adapt it into these rules with no problem at all.
Play this in preference to Daisho.
Oh, definitely.
I'm being the unofficial devil's advocate here.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah. I mean, I really like Dice Show. Dice Show is a more complex game. So I suppose at the end of the day, it depends on your. It depends on your. Partly depends on your audience and what sort of game you are after. Test of Honour is a much easier pick up and play game, as opposed to Dice Show, which takes a bit more getting your head around, and obviously is a bit more involved and there's a bit more to it in its rules mechanics. I really like Dice Show as a set of rules. They are most definitely better as a more fully rounded set of rules, in my opinion, than Test of Honour, but it gives you a different gaming experience. And that's where the difference is, I think.
I don't think I've played the game yet, even when we were learning it, that's lasted more than 45 minutes. Even when we did the campaign day down at the club, which was basically 6 of us, most people had only ever play tested it to themselves or had 1 or 2 games, and we were still doing, it was basically an hour for the round.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's a quick game. It's be a very good club game if you wanted to play a mini campaign in the evening. Stuff like that. It's got no great historical depth to it, but neither has a Western or a Chambara or anything else. So it's not supposed to have.
It's not. I mean, I'll come out now and say it's not my favourite. It's not my favourite set of Samurai skirmish rules. It's a good game. It's a good, perfectly fine game to play. But to my mind, it's not my favourite set of Samurai rules. But it's perfectly decent.
I've got my own set. I don't tend to play them a lot because it's like work.
Because every time you play them, you try and do something different with them, don't you?
Yeah. And also, it's. I mean, they didn't even get published through Ganesha because he didn't want anything that stepped on the toes of Blades and Heroes anyway.
Yeah.
So, although they were based on Flying Lead, the guy that owns the company didn't want another set of melee-based rules, which is why they didn't get published through him. But, I mean, even the Ganesha games, you're pushing to get people to play them because they aren't by a recognised, big company. There are better Samurai sets out there. Maybe some people might include mine in that, but try getting people to play them. You're more likely to find somebody to play Test of Honour because it's done by Warlord. It's had lots of exposure, etc., etc.
Yeah.
So,
and that's it.
There's better sci-fi sets than 40k, but the most number of sci-fi players are 40k players because of the same sort of reasons.
Yeah, and there is no doubt about the fact that I think the popularity of the game has taken Warlord a little bit by surprise. It's sold massively on release, and they've had to back order it, and
that's almost a symptom, though, isn't it? Now, that's almost a symptom of a bigger games company and a new release.
I suppose it is, yeah.
Yeah, like Warlord are bringing it out. It's going to be good. Let's buy it. Oh, it's Samurai. Warlords are bringing it out. It's going to be very good. Let's buy it.
Yeah.
And it is very good. But I would imagine there's a lot of people sitting there with boxes of sprues now.
Yes. Yeah, what do I do with all this lot? Because
yeah.
Yes, because I've used my Perrys and my Steel Fist and my Dixons and Tag and anything else except these things.
Even if you buy the core set and for the expansions, you've then got I don't know what the exact figure is, but you've got a heck of a lot more figures than you will ever need to play the game.
I think it works out if you bought all the expansion boxes and the same and the standard figures, you end up with something like, I think it's 6 mounted samurai, it's 15 foot samurai, and somewhere around about 60-ish Ashigaru, 60 maybe even 70 Ashigaru, which is verging on a small army.
Yeah, and you need 3 samurai and probably 18 at the most.
Yeah,
Ashigaru.
Ashigaru commoners, whatever. Yeah.
So I think there's false economy, I think is the word. Well, I'll get lots of this, but I'm never going to use most of them.
That's it. So, yeah, decent game. Need a couple of rules fixes. Fix the cavalry.
It is a very, very decent game, skirmish game. If I had to rate the game, I would say it's a very decent set of skirmish rules for anything, for that sort of time period. For things that are the ranged weapons are basically still bow, but it's not a very, very good samurai game.
No,
that's how I
think that's fair comment.
You're playing a good set of rules with samurai figures, so therefore it's a samurai game.
I think we kind of done that to death.
Sounds like it.
Yeah. Well, cool. Okay, well, that's Test of Honour, available from Warlord Games and their distributors. And they are promising to bring out further expansions. There's a couple of expansion figures out for it already. Promising to bring out further expansions and more optional rules and stuff in the near future. So, check it out on the Warlord Games website. So, thank you, Rich. Much appreciated, mate.
That's all right. I've enjoyed it. Thank you for having me.
Great to hear from you again.
Yeah, thank you. And we shall catch up with you soon, mate. All right.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Cheers.
We hope that you're enjoying this episode of the Meeples and Miniatures podcast. If you are, would you like to support us? There's a couple of ways of doing so. You can become a patron of the show by supporting us on our Patreon page. There you can give regularly every time we produce a show. Alternatively, you may want to give a one-off donation, and you can do that by using PayPal. For more details on both these options, please click on the Donate tab on our website www.meeplesandminiatures.co.uk.
So there we have it. An in-depth review of Test of Honour. Interesting game, although, yes, as I say, I think we eagerly await to see extra optional rules and what they're going to do with certain things. Like, please fix the cavalry, but there we go. But before we leave, point of order, gentlemen.
What have we done now?
Mr. Hobbs.
Oh, what have I done now?
Explain yourself, sir. What is... hang on. I believe you're actually on tape, on another podcast, talking about not doing a particular game system. So what is it? What is it that we hear that disturbs us this week, where you start tweeting about all of a sudden you're looking at 8th edition 40k?
Well, I did say when Jay asked me that question, I said the only thing that would get me back into it would be the rules.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been following what they're doing with 8th edition, and they seem to have taken a lot of criticisms on board and have made some nice changes. And it looks quite interesting.
Yes, as I've joked before, yes, taking some criticisms on board and basically decided that 3rd edition was a decent edition after all.
Yeah. They are bringing in...
It's similar to a reaction down the club, and an awful lot of people seem to be playing about that edition of Warhammer 40k.
Yeah. Which actually was probably one of my favourites as well before it all got silly. But it looks interesting. They have picked on some of the mechanics that they've used in Sigmar, which is going great guns down in Firestorm. Loads of people playing it, loads of people really enjoying it. And, well, as they're going to release the rules free, I'm going to have a look at it. I've got 2 armies here. I'm not going to buy any figures. I'm not going to buy the big £100 or whatever it's going to cost box set. I'm definitely going to buy a £50 rule book. But if the rules they're free and I got figures, I'll give it a go.
Well, I suppose that is the thing. You do have the odd painted army lying around, don't you?
Yeah, I got 2 nice big armies. So it's not like I'm going to be diving back in and playing 40k down the club, because you all know my feelings to an awful lot of 40k players. But if, say, Mark or Jeff, well, not Jeff won't, no. But if my mate Mark or Steve wanted a game, we could have a little quick game of 40k, because they're nice guys to play against.
Mr. Hobbs, turning to the dark side.
You have to be open in this life, Neil. You can't shut yourself away.
Yes.
Which is amusing, because the question that, if you recall us getting asked on a certain other podcast, was what would it take to bring you back to Games Workshop?
Yes.
And I never actually got to answer that question, and I still stand by my current answer. When hell freezes over. Although, that said, Andy Halls is talking about running a WAB 1.5 tournament. Campaign day, sorry, not tournament, at the club in October, I think. Or possibly November. And I might actually turn up.
The one thing in all this talk about new 40k editions has got me gazing up at my first edition Space Hulk, and especially since, most unreasonably, I thought, Mr. Hobbs refused to send me his third edition Space Hulk because, I mean, there he was saying, "Oh, I need to find a home for this. I might have to put it in the loft." I was like, "Yeah, what a terrible thing to do to such a nice game." I thought very reasonably. I offered. I said, if it needs a new home, just send it to me. But no.
Well, as soon as I finish painting it, I'll send it over to you. I've done 6 figures now in the 5 years I've had that box.
What's the phrase?
When hell freezes over.
Yes. I refer the honourable gentleman to the previous answer. Yes. Yeah, it has got me looking at my Space Hulk and kind of going, I should really get that out again. Yeah, definitely. Okay, yeah.
The third edition was just the first edition with slightly nicer figures. And I kind of like the old style Terminators from the first box. Because they're like the old computer game that you bought. 2 arms out, walking forwards, sort of shuffling away. It was great.
We should keep tabs on this, Mr. Hobbs. We should keep tabs on this.
You have to remember, I was a Games Workshop player before anything else. Tis my heritage.
Well, it's the same as I mean, I was heavily into 40k, Necromunda. What have you? Yeah, been there. Yeah, bought several T-shirts.
Yes,
still got most of them.
Do they still fit?
Moving quickly on. Yes.
Next.
Yes. Okay. And next is right. I just wanted to give a quick shout out, because when you hear this, next weekend is the UK Games Expo at the NEC in Birmingham. That is the 2nd to the 4th of June.
For once, not clashing with Operation Market London.
For once, yes, indeed. Which also means that I will actually, for the first time ever, be going to all 3 days of the show. Normally, I only get to go for 1 day.
But that's okay. I have a week more before Operation Market London than I thought I did. Moving swiftly.
Excellent. Yes. So yes, I will be there for all 3 days. I will be doing all the usual press stuff, because I will be attending as a member of the press. So I will be doing lots of interviews, but because of the fact that it's happening over 3 days, as opposed to me rushing around like a headless chicken trying to get everything done in a day, life will be much more laid back. So, if you're going to the UK Games Expo, Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, please feel free to pop over and say hi. And actually, I'll record something with you, because I will be just as intrigued to find out from you what your views are of the UK Games Expo. Now, the plan is to actually produce 3 shows on the 3 nights of the Games Expo. So the idea is to have a show on the Friday night, have a show on the Saturday night, and a show on the Sunday night. Basically, I'm going to be coming back and then throwing together what interviews I have and stuff I did during the day and putting it out. That's the plan. Okay, let's see what happens in in reality, but that is the plan. So, what I'll do is, just to make life easier, I will basically put out on social media in the morning. I'll probably put out a photograph of, okay, this is what I'm wearing today. I'll wear a red rose or something. I don't know. If nothing else, I'll probably wear the hat.
You could wear one of your Games Workshop t-shirts.
What, as a crop top?
Oh, please don't.
Okay, that was a mental image I didn't need.
And on that note.
On that note, yes, so basically, right, okay, seriously, if you're at the Games Expo and you see me and you want to chat, or even if you want a game, because we can do that sort of thing over 3 days, then please feel free to pop over and say hi, and I will look forward to hearing from you, chatting with you, and maybe even recording something with you as well. Okay, so I'll put that out there. Look forward to speaking to you during the UK Games Expo, and yeah, awful lot of coverage coming about that show next week. And on that note, I think it's about time we got out of here, isn't it? Because you've been listening to us for far too long, considering this is a weekly show.
Yeah.
It's all that Mr. Jones's fault.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Return of the Prodigal never goes well. Actually, that's not fair. It usually goes really well, actually. It's nice to have him back.
Indeed. Yes. So, all that remains to be said is, well, first off, thank you to Rich Jones for joining us for that in-depth review of Test of Honour. That is not the last you've heard of Mr. Jones. He will be back. Thank you to also Mr. Luff, who joined us for at least part of the Test of Honour review. And thank you to Mr. Whitaker, who joined us.
Very welcome, as ever.
Joined us despite the lack of cake.
Sniff.
And finally, thank you once again to the Welsh Wizard.
And thank you for having me.
Disappointing that it did. I mean, how long does it take? You escape, and I mean, how long was it before you backslide into your old ways?
Oh, it doesn't take long.
No.
Hour or two.
That's it. And we still don't know where you hid the phone. Yeah.
I'm
You
just
don't
not
wanna
going
know.
in there.
No.
Yes.
Really not going there.
Indeed.
No.
Yeah. All that remains to be said is thank you one and all for listening. Hope you've enjoyed it. Hope you found it useful. And we will be back with you next week. So until then.
Bye-bye. Roll good dice.
And take care. Happy gaming. We'll speak to you next week.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Meeples and Miniatures podcast. If you've enjoyed the show, why not share it with others by leaving us a review on iTunes? And if you have any comments or questions, you can always email the show. The address is info@meeplesandminiatures.co.uk. And you can also visit our webpage, where you'll find a complete episode archive, all the View from the Veranda podcasts, rules reviews, and our blog of hobby items and news, which is updated several times a week. This is also where you'll find the links to our presence on social media, and here you can follow us on Twitter or join our Facebook group. And finally, here you can also find details should you wish to support us by making a donation to the podcast. All this on the Meeples and Miniatures website, www.meeplesandminiatures.co.uk. The Meeples and Miniatures podcast is licensed under a Creative Commons Attribution, non-commercial, no derivs, 3.0 unported license. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks.